think about it going on. I know what it feels like. Yeah, I know it sucks when things don't come around. Don't break it now. I don't really know now. I've been hearing things I don't know now. I don't really hear just so.
Okay, now I think we're working. I think my mic was muted, but I believe we are good now. Somebody hit me in the chat. Communicate with me. Let me know. No, the mic's on now. I had to unmute it. But I think we're good. All right, we're working now. Sick. I'm hyped to see everybody here. Damn, this chat is active. Fuck yeah. That's what I like to see. Good shit, guys. Okay, I'm glad you guys can hear me now. I am very excited for today. I'm like looking for the camera. There's so much shit on my face, but I'm very excited for today. Spent a lot of time preparing this stuff for you guys. I'm a very busy person. I have so much on my plate because I'm just a very ADHD, like I have to have a million things going on at once to kind of live and survive type of person. So it's hard for me to find time to like do stuff like this where I can just do random shit for my community and give people free value and teach people and just put the people on, to stuff that I've learned. But honestly, that's kind of like the whole point of my existence on the internet. If I didn't feel a responsibility to share my findings and lessons learned and, things that have helped me in my life with the world, then I would be by myself on the side of a mountain in Norway, probably, and nobody would ever know I exist. And one day I'll be a campfire story, and that's okay. But for now, I'm helping the people out, and that's my job. So, we're happy to be here. I don't know how many people are watching this stream. I'm assuming it's a lot. How many people are on stream?
795.
Damn, nice.
800.
800? Sick. Wonder if we'll get to 1,000. That's crazy. But I'm excited. I need to go back to my slideshow and go back to the beginning so that I can get ready to go. But we're going to give it a couple of minutes before we get into everything to let everybody roll in. Got my yerba mate with me today. Shout out Yerba Mate for sending me a bunch of these things. I drank them already, and then they hit me up and they were like, yo, you want some fucking yerba mate? And I was like, fuck yeah. They sent me like 6 cases, which is so nice of them. So shout out those guys. That was not a paid promotion, by the way. They didn't pay me shit. That shit's just good. Anyway, so I'm excited for today. Today we are I'm basically just going to be first telling you guys a little bit about myself. And why you should even listen to me. I'm going to tell you exactly who is going to get value from this. I engineered this specifically to give value to a specific group of people. And I made sure that if that specific group of people is here, then they are 100% leaving with something actionable and something that will help them in their pursuit to do whatever it is they're trying to do. So that person, who that is, we will get into that in just a moment. It is 4 after now. When that clock hits 5 after, the presentation will begin. Class will be in session. And we'll be ripping. So I'm excited. My chat is gone, which sucks. Where did my chat? Oh, there it is. We're back. Chat's back. Okay. Sick. All right. Awesome. It is still 4 over. Damn, I'm waiting for the clock to hit 5. 305. Oh, 305. There's 1,300 people on the stream. Let's go. Holy shit. Okay, first off, out of the 13 people, her 1,300, 1,800 people? Are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit. All right. Fuck. Out of the 1,800 people on this stream, actually, first off, big love to you guys for showing up. Not for me, but for yourself. That is something very few people on this earth are willing to do. And I'm really grateful that I have been able to, I don't know, just even create a community of people that will, do that for themselves and show up to like a class in the middle of the week, to learn shit and apply information to their lives just because they have the opportunity to do so. You guys could be doing a million other things, playing video games, sleeping, hanging out with your girlfriend, hanging out with your boys, going bowling, riding your motorcycle, going to fucking, the range or whatever it is. But instead, you're choosing to be here to invest into yourself, to invest into knowledge, to invest into, any kind of material that can help you. And you should be fucking proud of that, because that is what's gotten any successful person I've ever seen to where they were. It's just choosing to sacrifice their time for something that's going to make their future better. And that's what the fuck you guys are doing. So it is now 6 over, which means the presentation needs to begin. We're on a time schedule here. So I'm going to switch over to, I believe I'm switching here. Boom. Okay. Hit me in the chat if you guys can see my presentation here on the screen. I just need to make sure shit is good right now. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm calling this the Creators Canvas. That's just going to be the name of the event. This is going to be a 3-day event. Most of you guys already know that. But over the course of this 3-day event, my goal is to go with you guys and walk with you guys through the process of taking an idea that is in your head and turning it into a brand that hosts a community and also provides instruction and also just gives you a feeling of fulfillment and direction in your life and gets you out of bed and makes you excited to work and potentially eventually replaces your day job and is built into a career that supports you and your family and your friends long term. That is our goal here today, is to basically walk you guys through all the steps that I went through and that my students and my friends and, loved ones that have also done this have gone through to get to that point. So yeah, that's the Creators Canvas. Cool little nifty name. Got some, what do you call that? Assonance, repetition of consonants in a word or a title. I think that's called assonance. It might be called alliteration. I'm not sure. I didn't pass grammar in 6th grade. So
Raise mic audio.
Raise mic audio?
Yeah.
Let me see. Is it this? Is that raising it? Is it louder now? A little more?
I think that's lowering it.
Oh, it's lowering it?
There you go.
Okay. Let me know if I'm good, guys. I just want to make sure my mic's good before I speak for an hour and a half and nobody can fucking hear me. Okay. Make sure okay. Are we good? Mic's good? Okay, awesome. All right, let's get into it. Day 1, foundations. So, let's see, make sure my slide switch button's working. Okie dokie. So first, let's get into the purpose of this masterclass, this workshop, whatever it is you want to call it. And these 3 days, essentially, like I said before, I want to take the ideas in your head and I want to turn it into a brand that people wear, something that changes people's lives, something that makes people feel better when they walk out of their house, something that makes you feel like awesome and like a badass when you walk out of the house and see somebody wearing something that you created and you see somebody else's life impacted in a positive way, somebody's identity represented in a positive way as a result of you applying yourself and creating something. And as a result, you get rewarded because you make money and you have a career now and you have a project that pays your bills, and essentially you get paid to make other people's lives better. And that's fucking awesome. And you get paid to do it in the way that you want to do it. That's my goal here. And that's what I'm assuming most people's goal is whenever they start a brand. So I'm not here to waste your time. This is specifically curated event. I'm not here to tell you how to do addition and subtraction. I'm here to help you how to take an idea and turn it into a clothing brand or a jewelry brand, but more specifically like a clothing brand, because a lot of people have expressed interest, after me posting just kind of what I've done with Tame Psychotic. So this is for you if you're, number one, just starting. You're a beginner. You don't know much about this brand building shit. You're just getting into it. Maybe you've seen a few YouTube videos. You've seen a few videos on Instagram, but you have an interest in it. You want to do it. This is for you, right? The brand is living in your head and you just don't know the actionable steps. I'm here to give you the actionable steps. This is also for you if you are already doing this and you're stuck and something just doesn't feel right. Most brand owners that have a little bit of success, they find a good product, right? And they do well for a little bit, right? This happened to me. This happens to every brand owner. They have a winning product, right? They finally find that winning product. They do well, and then they get stuck and they plateau and the product loses its hype, and thus the brand loses its hype, and then they're cooked, right? And this is also for you if you're in that situation, right? And you've already done this. Maybe you think you know what you're doing, and then, your product lost hype, you lose sales, and you realize, oh shit, like maybe something's missing, right? This is also for you as well. And the third person this is for is, again, the dreamer, all right? The person who has not even really thought about this too much, but just has a dream of building something bigger than themselves and expressing themselves creatively and and developing an outlet for their emotions and their passion and what's inside them that will benefit themselves and benefit the world. That's who the third person is that this is for. So if any of these are you, then I want you to type "that's me" in the chat, and hopefully I get to see it. There we go. My chat keeps going away. I don't know why it keeps going away. Let's see. Okie dokie. I'm seeing a lot of "that's me." Amazing, amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's all of us. Yeah, I mean, that's my goal. My goal was to get all of these people there. So if you're not one of these people, I don't want to waste your time and you can dip out of this live. But if you are one of these people and you listen and you have patience and you don't have doom scroll brain, TikTok brain, and you can actually just listen to what I'm saying and read what's on screen and take notes, then you are going to get a lot from this. So that's you. I want to see you. That's me. I'm seeing a lot of "that's me's" in the chat, and I like it. Tonight, what you're going to walk away with, again, this is a 3-day event, so you don't get everything in one day. We don't have time for that. Over the course of the next 3 days, you will get everything. But tonight, what you're going to walk away with is a very concrete understanding on what a brand actually is, right? So identity, audience, point of view, not just a logo on an Instagram profile or a Shopify icon or a Chrome browser icon, right? You're also going to walk away with my brand identity framework. So essentially kind of like the steps that I took to develop the identity that is my brand, which is the it factor, the separation gap, the element that is the magic of my brand that makes it different from other brands, that makes people drawn to it, that makes people care about the products, that makes people care about the people, that makes people care about the content, that makes the brand successful anyways, right? And then the third thing is hopefully complete clarity on who your brand is for. That is the biggest question that I think most people need to answer from the jump. And most people who don't answer this from the jump, they end up fucking themselves. We're gonna get further into that later on in this presentation. But before we get started, I want you guys to take notes. The last time that I did one of these classes, the people who got the most value were just the people who sent me photos of the pages of notes that they took from, the whole 3-day workshop. And those are the people that I saw 3 months down the line dropping their first products, right? And, sending me screenshots of their sales, in their Shopify analytics. And, the people who were tagging me in their campaigns, like their cinematic campaigns that they made, that were, blowing up low key. So take notes, be professional. Treat this not like I'm not a streamer. I'm not Speed. I'm not Plaque Boy Max. I'm not fucking I'm not Marlon. I'm not like a streamer. You guys know this. I don't do the goofy fucking, rage bait entertainment like shit. Okay. So I don't want you guys to treat this like a Twitch stream. I want you to treat this like Harvard University class. Like, I want you to treat this like you got personally invited for free to go to Oxford to listen to fucking, I don't know, Albert Einstein talk about relativity for the day and then pretend like you're interested in relativity, right? That's how I want you guys to approach this. I took time out of my week, my busy week. I'm planning a 5-day trip to Alabama Hills, a 5-day trip to Mexico, a campaign to shoot while we're in Mexico, an in-person event that I'm hosting in August, another in-person pop-up that I'm hosting in September. I have a lot of shit to do, okay? I took my time out of this entire week, basically blocked off the whole week to do this, so I expect you guys to treat it with the same respect. As long as we're on the same page there, we're good. Q&A, I'm gonna answer questions at the end. I'm gonna try to not answer too many questions during the presentation so that I can maintain train of thought and keep going in this so that nobody's time is getting wasted. We'll answer questions at the end. And then there's also gonna be no replay of this masterclass. I saw a few questions in chat earlier about that. Yeah, no replay. We are just going to fucking keep trucking and keep doing this just free value. And for the people who want to show up and soak it all in and actually invest in themselves, you win. And for the people who don't, you miss out. And that's just how it is, you know? So at the end, I'm going to send you guys just a free resource. Every time I do one of these, I always like to put together something at the end that's kind of like a homework synopsis, kind of just regathers your thoughts and helps you like retain the information and helps you kind of like study what you're learning, because I'm going to be, once I get going, y'all know I get going. I'm going to be rapid fire and I'm going to just fucking keep going and just unload as much information on you guys as I can, because that's my goal. Again, my goal is not to sit here and entertain you. My goal is to make sure that you leave today in your head and you're like, I know more than when I got on today. That's my entire goal with this. So yeah, let's fucking do it. So type 1 in the chat if you're ready to get started. Let me pull my chat up again. Make sure you guys are here. I'm gonna have you guys active in this chat because I want to make sure you're paying attention. It's hard. I find it hard to believe that 800 or 1800 or how many fucking people are on here are gonna pay attention the whole time and actually be fucking locked in. So I'm gonna be on you guys, making sure you're locked in throughout it. So there's the ones. That's what I like to see. Fuck yeah, guys. We're locked in. We better be, at least. So, okay, let's do it. All right, so who am I and why should you listen to me? I'm going to try to bang through this as fast as I can. A little bit of a crazy story, my life at least. So I'm going to try to just make it quick, simple, so you guys have just some familiarity. Some of you guys already know who I am. If you do, great. But for those of you who don't, this is who I am. I'm Marshall Cruz. Most people call me Marsh. I'm the founder of Tame Psychotic and Urban Unity. I built Tame Psychotic in 2023 from scratch, and we built it to 7 figures, and it's a fucking sick ass brand. It's my favorite project I've ever done. I've worked with tons of brands, big brands, small brands, and that's my baby. That's like my passion. That's what I wake up every morning thinking about. Whenever I'm up late at night at 4 o'clock in the morning, thinking, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about, my homies as often. I'm not thinking about, my girl. I'm not thinking about, this. I'm thinking about the brand. That's my obsession. That's kind of like my child, right? So I've directed over 25 5-figure campaigns at this point. Probably more, honestly. That's just kind of like a number that I'm just like, it's definitely 25. Probably closer to like 30 or 40 at this point. I've done a fuck ton. I've done a lot of consulting for 4 years now with, again, big brands, small brands, in multiple different areas, but primarily in number 1, basically creative direction, art direction, and number 2, kind of like production and stuff like that. So I've also coached over 500 students. Again, like I said earlier, kind of feel like my whole purpose of existence on the internet is just to, kind of share what I've learned with other people who maybe don't have the same experiences in my life that caused me to learn them. Not everybody has lived a life like I have. Not everybody has had the opportunities to learn the lessons that I have. And thus it is my responsibility to share those. So yeah, I've coached, at this point, over 500 students. I think I've taught probably, I don't even know how many classes I've taught. I have taught classes for 2 years, twice a week. So holy shit. that's a lot of fucking classes. That's like almost 1,000 classes. Crazy. But yeah, I've been featured in a bunch of shit on the internet. I'm not gonna get into all that. But and then in addition, I've been researching creative process, organic marketing. That's what I specialize in for 6 years now. So long time, I know. So couple, just wins from some students that I've worked with and some folks that I've worked with. I really enjoy that shit. And from the outside, my life probably looks super lit. You guys who follow me on Instagram, you guys have seen probably the fucking, the brand shit, the big campaigns and productions, the camping, motorcycles, the fucking trips to Asia, to go see the factory, to China, to Japan, to do research or fucking whatever. You guys have seen like all the fun stuff because that's like what I post, But if you've been around long enough, you know that it didn't always look like this. Yes, that is actually me in that photo. That was me in college when I was 17. At 17, I lost my mom in a car accident. And maybe some of you guys know that story. I'm not going to get super into it. I don't want to, lose my fucking emotional stability at this moment. But after that, my relationship with my dad kind of just went to shit. And my dad and my stepmom just said, hey, he needs to go. So, they kicked me out of my house and told me not to come back. And I had no money. I had no job. I was in debt because I was trying to figure out this whole entrepreneurial thing. I was in debt to like several thousands of dollars. Like it was not good. And my girlfriend broke up with me at that exact time because I was so like mentally and emotionally just fucked. And yeah, I was like homeless. So I am so grateful for the worship pastor's family at my church growing up at the time because they let me stay in their attic and let me eat dinner with them and shit for like 8 months. And without that, I might have been like actually on the street for a little bit. So I'm super grateful to them. But as a result, I had just a bunch of emotions that just kind of built up inside me. My life was going to shit and I was angry, I was sad, I was lonely. My family I felt kind of like abandoned by my dad and my family, and I felt kind of like rejected, and I feel like a lot of people, know what that feels like. And these emotions just kind of sat inside of me. I didn't really have anywhere to express them or let them out. And to be honest, for a long time, I expressed those emotions in very harmful ways for me, whether it was partying or, trying to like do drugs to escape those feelings or whatever. Like I was doing anything that I could, I was messing around with girls. I was doing things to try and pull myself out of a conscious state. Essentially, that's kind of what I was doing. And, it was not good for me. And we get back to my presentation. The gym was my first outlet. So I started in the gym. The pair of pants is actually the first pair of pants that I custom made ever. So kind of crazy when I saw that photo. I was just looking for a gym photo, but I saw those pants and I was like, holy shit, that was the first pair of pants that I ever made. The gym was my first kind of outlet to like release the emotions and be able to like create content or inspire people in any way, shape, or form. Started in fitness content. Wanted people to like me. I wanted I wanted to feel like I was on the earth for a reason, and like maybe other people's lives were a little bit better because I was here. I wanted to feel purpose. I wanted to feel like, appreciated, I think, you know what I mean? But every day I woke up and I still felt like shit. And even though online people were appreciating me and maybe applauding me and telling me like, yo, I'm valid or whatever, I didn't like really doing the stuff that I was posting. I didn't like making the content that I was making. I was doing it because it worked and because like I was like semi jacked in the gym, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I wasn't fulfilled. I had enough money to pay my bills. I had attention from girls. I had respect from other guys. I had kind of like all the main things that like most men want. But I still just felt like shit. And I was like, still woke up every day and I was like, I feel like I'm still alone. People don't really see me or hear me or understand me. And I hate to be the stereotypical misunderstood kind of guy, but that's just the situation, that I was in. I started taking I don't know, hopefully I could say this on stream, but I started taking mushrooms in 2023 because I was so hell bent on just just figuring out what the fuck was wrong, like why I was not like why I just felt like unhappy. I had on paper everything that I needed to be happy as a man, but I felt unhappy, and I just wasn't sure why that was. So, I would just get lost in my head. I remember I would walk circles around my pool at the building that I lived in Los Angeles, and that's when I started riding bikes. And I started, I was just deep in thought all the time. I stopped talking, I stopped socializing, and I would just think about just stuff that I could make. Because previously I'd gotten like a little bit of like a nice dopamine hit from making things like videos, or, kind of like I was already doing kind of like advertisement and marketing and stuff for brands. So anytime I did something that would cause like a spike in revenue for the brand, I would feel validated and feel like, oh shit, well, I'm doing something good. You know what I mean? I want to make more things that do more good, right? And through that, I found myself wanting to do that a lot more than fitness. And by that, I mean like new ideas that did good for myself or for other people, right? I wanted to do something hard. Fitness was not hard for me. It wasn't hard for me to go to the gym. It wasn't hard for me to eat the same thing every day. I didn't really have to think about it. It was just like routine for me. It wasn't hard for me to set up my phone camera at the gym and, do a couple fucking poses or whatever. That shit wasn't hard, and I didn't feel challenged at all. And I wanted some purpose. I wanted to feel like what I was doing was not, just influencing people to go to the gym, but influencing people to just be like better human beings and more impactful, productive human beings in general. So I stopped posting the fitness content. I took a break, and during that time, I explored my ideas, what I kept coming back to, what I was excited to work on, what I found myself thinking about until the wee hours of the morning. And I kept coming back to the same thing. Some of you may remember this apartment that I had that was actually a photo from 2024, but it's just kind of like reflective of my feelings in 2023. And some of you may know that my mom, whenever I was younger, did like trunk shows. She sold clothes for another company in her living room to friends on Facebook. Like the company would send her clothes, and she would present them to her friends on Facebook, invite them over for punch and brownies and shit, and just show them the line of clothes. And I would watch, and I would just be there, like, I would help my mom out, whenever I could. And I think that's why I kind of had just like an eye or an affinity for clothing. I just had like an intrigue. It was intriguing for me because my mom, was selling all kinds of crazy, weird, decorative clothing for middle-aged women. And yeah, it was clothing for middle-aged women, and I didn't think it was cool, but it was just something that I was like very interested in, like her like showing the clothes and talking about the clothes. Like I don't know how many times I probably watched her do that, probably 100 times, you know what I mean? And I think that's why clothing for me was the thing that my brain kept going back to. So in April 2023, I don't know why that other slide was there. In April 2023, that's the decision I made. I started my brand. And some of you guys remember this picture if you've been an OG for long enough, but if not, then yeah, I remember this day specifically. I remember walking home from a gym in downtown Los Angeles, and it was raining a little bit, and I just had a vision, and I was like, dude, like I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do this. I truly believed for a second in my head. It felt like it had already happened. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm 100% going to do this, and I'm going to succeed, and I'm going to knock it out of the park. And so I did. And that's where we're at today. And just to give you guys like a peek at what that looks like, hopefully you guys can see. This is my brand. We've been, again, like operating since 2023. I don't even know if I can scroll back that far, but I've done probably hundreds of items at this point. I have sold everything from like actual clothing to denim to sweatpants to, t-shirts and graphics to, this is all stuff that I don't even really like anymore. It's just stuff that I did a while back, that this is, it's just like, dude, I've made so much shit. I've made sunglasses. I've made I don't even know. I've done tons of campaigns. I've done campaigns with lots of people. I've done campaigns with one person. I've done campaigns myself. I've done I've done campaigns where me and my roommate were just taking photos of myself in the parking garage in a building in Orange County. I've done campaigns on the side of canyons, you know what I mean? I've done campaigns with friends. I've done campaigns, bro, the amount of shit that I've done over the past, 3 years with the brand is insane. And I've archived most of the stuff that I don't feel like represents the brand anymore, which is like most of what I did in 2024. I kind of just went off on a tear that year and I don't know. I got lost in the sauce. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of where we're at present day. And I'm not the smartest dude on planet Earth. I have failed way more times than most people have tried. I have lost tens of thousands of dollars. I've probably lost over $100,000 at this point in failures, in me buying bulk orders and products that people didn't even like, you know what I mean? I liked them and I thought they would like them, so I bought them and, paid $10,000 for this product or this product, and then the product just never even sold, you know what I mean? I've lost money getting scammed from Pakistani manufacturers. I lost $30,000 from one of them in 2023. I've lost money paying designers that scammed me. I've lost money doing just dumb shit and making campaigns that were really, really expensive for no reason. I've done it all. I have failed in every way that you can think of. I am not going to sit here today and act like I am just like this flawless fucking genius marketer that never screws up. I make my own mistakes. I'm learning, but I'm a student of the game. And a student of the game takes the lessons that he learns, applies them, and doesn't make the same mistake twice. And that is why I'm here today. And that is why the brand is where it's at today. And that's ultimately what will lead to my success in the long term, is because I'm 6 years into this, 7 years at this point, and I'm still a student of the game. And that is what you guys that's the mentality you guys need to adopt, all right? So if I can do all this shit, so can you. You can build your brand way faster than I did, and hopefully I can make that happen by giving you guys a bunch of free shit, free information, just kind of game that I've learned and written about and researched. Again, half my job is doing the job, and then the other half of my job is researching the job and researching the work other people are doing and researching the work I'm doing and figuring out what is the right steps. How could I teach this to somebody else, right? I have pages and pages and pages of just me typing and staring at my computer screen about how exactly I did this, X, Y, Z, and my goal is just to relay all that to you guys. So yeah, that's how all of my students saw success. They just fucking, listened. They implemented shit. They were students of the game. They took what they learned and they immediately applied it. They didn't make the same mistake twice. And if they saw potential to make a mistake in the future, they clocked it with the information they were given and didn't make the mistake like I did and like most of the brand owners who grew up in my generation, had to make. Because ultimately, whenever I was learning this shit, there was nobody doing fucking workshops and shit. There was nobody doing jack shit. I mean, not even YouTube videos that were helpful. They were teaching people just the dumb shit on, how to print on a t-shirt. Yes, there's not a million people who print on t-shirts. That's the stuff that was on YouTube when I was learning all this shit. So, yeah, it was all trial and error for me. So the only thing I ask, now that we're done with the intro, is that you stay to the end and that you apply what you learned today. Use the shit you learn. If you do not use the shit that you learn, nothing will come of this. You will have come here and wasted all of your time and ultimately wasted my time too. And I don't like when people waste my time. And you don't like when people waste your time. So let's not waste any of our time today, all right? So first of all, what is a clothing brand? I want to focus in and dial in on that word brand. A brand is an identity plus an audience plus a point of view. It's not clothing. It's not a t-shirt. It's not a pair of pants. That's what most people think. Most people think, oh, a brand. And most people think, oh, that's a t-shirt. Brand doesn't have the word clothing in it. Brand can be very broad. So to define a brand, again, it's an identity. It's a way of being, a way of seeing yourself, a point of view, a perspective, how you see the world, what you like, what you don't like, what you choose to be a part of, what you choose to not be a part of, who you choose to identify with, who you choose not to identify with, plus an audience. So an audience, a community, a group of people who are all kind of thinking in the same way. So a brand is essentially a community of like-minded people, right, who are aligned by some kind of common interest or common belief or common value or common something. There is a trait of likeness, essentially, right? So a clothing brand is just the brand, which is what we talked about: community, like-minded individuals, group of people with an aligned interest, right? Plus products that make their life better. Now, it's not products that make everybody's life better. Toilet paper makes all of our lives better. Can we all agree on that? I think we can all agree that toilet paper makes our lives better, right? But what I'm speaking about is a product that makes specifically these people's lives better. The people in that specific brand, in that specific identity or that community or that group of people that are all aligned under that interest. For example, if me and 10 of my homies are all aligned under the common interest of a motorcycle, and somebody, a toilet paper is not going to be a product that would be sold in a clothing brand, all right? But a mount that's magnetized to our tanks that could hold our phones and help us navigate, that's a product that would fit into like that brand and serve that specific group of people, and that's what I'm referring to when I say clothing brand, all right? And most brands fail, we know this. Like this, I looked up on Google just to see what it would say, and it says around 80 to 98% of new fashion and clothing brand startups fail. And only about 2 to 10% of brands survive. That's a very, very generous statistic. There's no way they're clocking the amount of brands that are started every single day and like never finished and never brought to anything. I would say the amount of successful brands are probably much lower. I would say that number is probably closer to like 0.5% of brands that actually see some actual long-term commercial viability. And the reasons for that, Google's not going to tell you the reasons for that, but the reasons for that is because, number one, they have no foundation. They don't know their audience. They don't understand what they're even making. They don't understand the direction that they're going in the long term. They have an idea of like, oh, I saw that shirt and I like that shirt and I want to make similar stuff to that, but that means nothing. That doesn't mean anything. That is a very small piece of your taste that is raw and kind of like you can't do anything with that piece of information. You know what I mean? So they have no foundation. They don't know their audience. They don't know who they're making stuff for. They don't know what they're making for those people. They don't have a brand identity. They don't have an it factor. They don't have a unique selling point. They don't have a separation gap. They don't have a factor that separates them from other brands, that makes people want to buy from them instead of the other brands. They don't have that. Another one is they don't have effort. Right? If there's no effort, if you're lazy, you're just gonna copy what other people are doing. You're not going to put any kind of like thought, grit, or effort into making it new or different or refreshed. If you don't care about it, you're not gonna try hard. If you don't care about it, then essentially you're doing e-commerce where you're just jumping from one gimmick product to another gimmick product to another gimmick product to another gimmick product. And we've seen people do that all the time. All the e-commerce gurus, the Shopify gurus, that's what they do. First they sell, yerba mate, and then that stops making sales. And then they sell iPhones, and then they sell cayenne pepper, and then they sell fucking mouse pads. You know what I'm saying? They don't care about any of this stuff, so there's no real effort put in, right? And if there's no effort, then you're not going to be successful. I'm sorry, but like that's just how it is. If you're lazy, you're not going to be successful. Everybody knows that shit, all right? And the last thing is they don't have clarity. There's so many different things to do. There's so many different tasks to work on. They don't know what to work on first. They don't know what is like the task at hand that they need to do now. Like right now, I could be thinking in my head, oh, I've got to go clean my bathroom, and I've got to go wash the dishes, and fuck, I have to do this meeting, and I have to text these two guys, and I have to plan this trip. But right now, what matters, and I have clarity on this, is that I'm teaching you guys because there's like 1,000 people watching me that are here that set aside time in their day to get value, right? That is my clarity, right? And that's what you guys need. That's what every brand owner needs. And without this, and any experienced brand owners here will know, that if you don't have clarity, then you will start a million different tasks and you won't finish a single one, and because of that, your brand will get nowhere. All right, and we're gonna get into clarity clarity like a little bit further into this class, but heavily into it tomorrow and on day 3, as we get into like the 4-bucket framework and kind of like workflow templates and stuff like that. But these are the 4 reasons that most people fail. Most people will be like, oh, well, your product sucks. And, maybe their product sucked, but this is the root of it right here. So, as long as you're aware of these, that was my goal of, kind of going over that so that you guys are aware and, aren't going to like just let a gap sit there without consciously knowing about it and being able to fill it. All right. So when you build your brand without the identity, oh shit, I'm fucking clicking forward. When you build your brand without the identity, and without working on your foundation and understanding your foundation, essentially you're building your brand on just like sand. I don't like using the word sand. It's just, I'm trying to dumb this down as much as possible. I'm not using any big words in this presentation. My job here is not to make myself look smart. My job here is to make the information look dumb and easy to understand, right? So most people who build their brand, they think about content first. They think about, okay, what's like I want to do a cool photo shoot, right? And then they think about the product, and then they think about, the sales, and they're trying to get the sales. They're like, what are people are buying? And then they're like, oh, well, what content is selling those products to those people and making them buy? And they're completely forgetting about the fact that, like, if you don't have an identity that your brand sits on, that your brand exists as a part of, that if you don't have a heart and soul to your brand, then your arms don't do anything, right? Your limbs will not do anything. Your limbs will not work if you don't have a central nervous system, if you don't have a heart that's pumping blood to your limbs, if you don't have a heart that's pumping blood to your brain, right? It's like the human body. Content is like the brain. Product and community is like the limbs and the fingers, but the brand identity is like the heart. That is the most important organ in the body, and it is the most important organ in the brand, and that's what we're locking in on today. And before I go any further into this, a lot of you guys are sitting here with your brands, and maybe you guys have done like 1 or 2 drops, or maybe you guys have been doing it for a year, and you're like, I mean, this is easy. This is like the beginner shit, bro. Like, when are we gonna get to the hard shit, bro? Like, let me know when we're getting to the complicated shit. Most of you guys don't have this figured out either. Most of you guys who have done drops, like I know people, I'm not gonna like name drop obviously, but I know people that are probably in this live that have done multiple clothing drops, probably have made more than 6 figures with their clothing brand, right? At some point in time or another, and they still don't have this down. And that's why the consistency of revenue is not there. And that's why they're here, because ultimately most of us, and I'm including myself in this, all right? I've been stuck on multiple occasions because I skipped this step. I went straight to finding a good product and straight to content, right? And maybe I found one good product, right? And maybe that product did really, really well and got me revenue. But then after a while, people stop buying the product, and then you lose your hype and you lose your sales, but you still have bills, and then you're losing money, and then you're bleeding, and then your brand dies. And that's how a lot of the brands that maybe they do 6 figures, that's how they die. I know clothing brand mentors, like people who teach this stuff, who had brands that had one good product, and then their brand died, and so they started like teaching people to like try and revive their stuff, right? Like that's how important the identity and the foundation is to everybody, to myself included. I have like frameworks and exercises that I use to like reaffirm my foundation and identity that I do every 3 to 6 months. I do these exercises myself every 3 to 6 months to ensure that the products that I'm making, the videos that I'm making, the output, the creative output is still aligned with where I'm at with my identity and my foundation of my brand. All right. So I said all that to say, if you think this is the beginner shit, yes, it is. And if you think that you're not a beginner, you probably skipped this stuff, and that's probably why you're stuck. All right. Again, I know this clothing brand shit is hard. It's not easy, but this makes it a heck of a lot easier to be successful consistently in the long term. So that's what we're going to get into. In essence, if you're making content or clothes before you have a foundation or an identity to build on first, you're doing it backwards and you're wasting your time and your money. Okay. How do I know this? Because I've done it and I've made this mistake, and I've literally gotten off track so many times with my brand, just like with my ADHD brain, I'm like trying to go here and I'm trying to go here and I'm making this product and this product. And then a year later, I'm like, what the fuck was I doing making that product, right? And it's because I didn't have this identity that we're going to talk about today intact. And because of that, I wasted time speaking to customers that I shouldn't have been speaking to, trying to sell clothes to them that I didn't even like, that I don't like anymore, maybe, right? And it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. It's a waste of money. And ultimately, if you can learn this shit and you can get it down and you can understand it before you start selling products, you're going to save yourself all the time and hassle that myself and tons of other brand owners have experienced trying to figure this shit out without anybody fucking teaching them. Okay? All right. Now that we understand why we're here, let's get into it. So first, you got the identity. Then the product is built on the identity, then the content is built on top of the product and the identity, and then the community is built as a result of the content being built on the product and the identity, and that's when the sales come, okay? That's how this whole thing works. But brand identity comes first because identity is the blueprint that you will look back to, right? It's the how-to manual that you're gonna look back to. It's your reference that you're gonna look back to every single time you do anything in sales department. You do anything in efforts to build community. You do anything to make content, and you make any product. Every single product you make will reflect the brand identity. Every single piece of content that you will make will be reflective of the identity, and your community will reflect the identity, all right? And that is why it's fucking important. So first, what the fuck is a brand identity? I keep saying this word over and over and over. What is it? I'm sure tons of people in the chat are all pissed. I'm like, so what is it, bro? Like, get to the point, all right? Well, a brand identity is 4 things, in my personal opinion. Again, I'm not stating any of these things as facts. I'm stating them as my understanding of them so that people, in the way that has helped the most people. Again, I've coached over 500 students. I've been teaching for 2.5 years now. I have a lot of data built up that has shown me what works for people versus what doesn't work for people. And what I'm teaching is a reflection of 2 years of data of working with over 500 different brand owners and my personal experience and my observation of my colleagues and other, friends' experiences as well. Again, just wanted to preface, okay? So number 1, your person, who it's built for. Number 2, the 3 adjectives that define that person, 3 core adjectives. We're gonna get into that in a sec. Number 3, your it factor. What unites these people? What's that factor that's like the magnetism, the magic, the fucking like, you know what I mean? Like what makes your brand different from other brands? Your unique selling point, your USP, your separation gap. There's a million different names for it. I'm calling it the it factor here because it's the most dumbed down term. And then your product, obviously, and that comes last. We'll talk about that last, but let's start with your person, okay? So that person is you. You're not pinpointing a person in an audience. You're not like, is it that person or is it that? No, it's you. The person is you, and who you are and who you want to become, who you aspire to be, right? And the reason it has to be you is because everything that you make with the brand, because when you're running a brand, you are a creative, essentially. You're creating things, everything from the content to the website copy to the product descriptions to the details on the actual product design to the way that you communicate the designs to the way that you display the designs. Everything is a creative expression, essentially, and everything needs to be something that you love, right? Which means that the person that you're speaking to, or the person that is a part of your identity, the person that you are going to sell products to, the person that is going to watch your videos is going to be like, damn, that shit's hard, right? The person who's going to see your product scroll across their screen and be like, that shit, I can see myself in that. Like, I really want that. That's fucking heat. I'm going to send that to my friend. That person needs to be you because, and for several reasons, but the main reason is just because you are going to be able to understand that more than anybody else. You're going to be able to understand something you like more than anybody else. Why? Because you're going to use it more than anybody else. All the products that I sell are products that I wear on a daily basis. And the reason that they're good products and that people like me really like the products is because I I am wearing them. I know a lot about them. I know the good from the mid. My taste has been refined over years and years of use. And if your taste does not exist in your products and your brand, then you have no guidance. All right. So everything that you make, from the content that you make to the products that you make to your website and how it looks, to your product descriptions and how you speak in your captions on your Instagram, to your profile photo, to everything, your emails, your SMS, how it sounds, how it feels, it needs to be something that you fuck with and that you love. So the person that you're speaking to, that you are serving, is going to be yourself ultimately, unless you're trying to make some fucking like e-commerce store. And if you are, that's fine. I'm not here to teach that. I'm here to teach people how to make impactful brands. I'm here to teach people how to make brands that change other people's lives and that make people's lives better, that people think about and that people identify with and that people have an emotional attachment to and an emotional, kind of like congruence with, right? Like a mental congruence with people, something that brings people together, right? Not a brand that like is just like, oh, it's a problem solving product like this mouse. I don't think about Apple whenever I use this mouse, right? Whenever I wear, my brand, I think about all the other people involved in my brand. And I think about how much better I feel as a person walking outside of my house because I'm wearing my shit and I'm representing Tame Psychotic, right? Like that's what I'm teaching here. Okay. So if you're here to like find out on some like, hottest, newest product on Alibaba that you can sell on your e-commerce store, then go like fucking watch a YouTube video or something on that, because that's not what we're getting into. Okay. We're here to serve people. We're here to make an impact, and we are here to change the world and leave a legacy. And like, if you think that's corny, then go fuck yourself. Go watch another video. I think it's awesome, and I personally have gotten a lot of fulfillment out of it, and I know other people would like to do the same. So that's what we're here for. That's what we're teaching, and that is why the person needs to be a reflection of you, because you are going to understand yourself more than you're going to understand anybody else. You're going to have your perspective, and as we talked about earlier, the definition of the word brand, a third of it is perspective. It's point of view, okay? So person needs to be you. So who is your person? Let's take a moment to get introspective. Let's take a moment to think about oneself and to like just sit, and I want you to just think and ask yourselves these questions and just be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to put it in the chat. You don't have to do anything. I just want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to ask you these questions. I'm going to say these questions out loud, and you could even like close your eyes and like meditate here for a second and just think about it and just be like, okay, just be honest with yourself, all right? So I'm going to start, and I'm going to say these questions. I'm going to say them once or twice, and I want you guys to, and you guys would be good to write these down and take notes on these. But I'm going to say these questions out loud, and these are going to essentially just uncover kind of like information about yourself that can be used to help define who that person is, who the person you're speaking to is. Why do we need to understand more about ourselves? So that you can fucking sell to yourself, so that you can make some good shit for yourself, so that you can make a product that would make your own life better, so that you can make content that would make your own life better, right? That's essentially what we're looking to do. So question number 1, what did you collect growing up? Everybody has an affinity for something. Everybody has kind of like a draw to something. Everybody enjoys seeing more than one of something together. Some people like collecting basketballs. Some people like collecting rugs for their apartment. Some people like collecting drumsticks. Some people like collecting guns. Some people like collecting old photos. Some people like collecting Lego sets, right? Some people, there's a million things that people will collect, right? We've all seen hoarders. We've all seen those TV shows of people who just like collect shit and throw it in a storage unit. Some people collect cars, you know what I mean? What is it that you personally had an affinity for that you enjoyed collecting? For me, it was just old things from the shed that I found, and it was Lego sets. And like, I loved Legos. I loved like building shit, and I just had such an affinity for it. And I would collect like the little fucking Lego characters and shit, you know what I mean? And I would collect like all the different hairs from like different Lego sets. I remember going to Walmart and being like, I want to buy that Lego set, and it would just be so that I could collect the fucking characters in the Lego sets, right? So that's the first question. What did you collect growing up? What are your interests? And the reason that we want to understand this thing is so that we can understand what your interests are as a person. What do you have? What makes you snap into focus and be like, oh, that's cool, right? That's what we're trying to uncover. The second question is, what did you make when nobody asked you to, right? When nobody is asking you to do something, when you are not obligated to do something or to create something or to find something, what is it that you did just because you wanted to, right? Just because you felt like, I have nothing to do right now. What would make my time now be better spent than just sitting here doing nothing? That would make it better spent than sitting here doing nothing. For me, when I was a kid, I enjoyed like riding my bicycle and going through my neighborhood and just seeing houses that I'd never seen before and finding like different areas. Like I would find like wooded areas that were like kind of like just in like deep into somebody's wooded backyard that, you know, I liked building forts. I liked, you know, building enclosed areas that like were just mine and finding things that nobody else had seen before and just finding things to claim as my own, like a pirate, you know what I mean? That's how I saw myself as a kid. You know, I was on my bicycle and I was fucking looking for shit, you know, that was special to me. That was kind of like, you know, a big thing that I was passionate about. Another thing that I was passionate about was soccer. I played soccer for like 10 years competitively and then stopped whenever, you know, it was time to go to college, and I ended up just dropping out of college and, you know, doing my own thing. But that was another thing. That was another passion, something that I did not because I thought like other people were going to like, you know, I don't know, like other people wanted me to do them. It was just a passion of mine. So understanding passions is very important. The next thing is what world did you watch from the outside, right? So what people did you watch from the outside? What were your favorite TV shows? Who were your favorite characters in those TV shows? Who were your favorite celebrities? Who were your favorite people to see on TV? Who were your favorite characters in the TV shows that you would watch growing up as a preteen and, you know, a teenager and maybe into a young adult as you were formulating in opinions? Who were the people, you could even go deeper, like, you know, who were the people at school that you thought were the coolest? And why did you think they were the coolest? Really think about that one. Really think, who did you have the most respect for? Who were you drawn the most to, and why were you drawn the most to them? Why were you drawn the most to them? Find that why. If you can find that why, then you're really making progress here and you're really coming to an understanding. Another question, who did you want to be at 16? If you could pick a character from this world, if you could be anybody, and whether it was on TV, whether it was fiction from a book or from reality, or maybe it was a celebrity, or maybe it was a singer or an artist or a guitar player or a fucking, you know, the trash truck driver, like whatever it was, who was that? You know what I mean? Who was your hero? You know, who was the person that you were like, that motherfucker's, that's the GOAT right there. Like, that's what I wish I could just be him. Like, you know what I'm saying? For me, you know, I used to watch Little House on the Prairie with my grandpa. And in the show, there's Pa. And Pa has the family that loves him, and he has the wife that loves him and the kids that love him, and he works hard and he goes out and he makes shit happen. He fucking builds the house, and, you know, whenever shit goes south and the money gets bad, he goes and fucking makes the money. He figures it out. He's just he's a badass, and that's what I wanted to be. You know what I mean? That was like a hero of mine as a kid, you know, and I didn't really watch too much TV because I wasn't really allowed to. My parents didn't let me really watch TV like that. So I didn't really have much inspiration as a kid. You know what I mean? I think my dad was probably one of my bigger sources of inspiration, you know, because he was the only person that was like really that I knew. I was homeschooled, you know what I mean? There wasn't cool kids at school for me. You know what I mean? For most of you guys, I understand that there are, but yeah. So anyways, next question. What did you hide about yourself to fit in? Like what insecurities did you experience that you chose to remove? Like what were the things about you that you didn't really much like about yourself that you chose to hide so that you could be more like this? Right? So and that's like a big thing to understand just for awareness, so that you can overcome these insecurities and then help other people overcome those insecurities, or speak to them, you know, in a certain way that, or like provide or make something for them that makes that better, or whatever it is, right? It's important to understand gaps essentially, and like what those like limiting factors are, so that you can help people overcome those limiting factors, or maybe even overcome them for yourself and then help people overcome those limiting factors, right? And then the last one is, what did you refuse to become? What was like, you know, what was like the enemy, right? What was like the worst case scenario? What was like the I'm never going to be like that? You know what I mean? Like what was like the I never want to be like him, or I never want to be like her, or I never want to fucking end up like that? Like what was the enemy? For me, honestly, as sad, I don't even want to say it, as sad as it is, like it was like my parents. Like my parents, for me, like I just grew up in a really shit fucking situation. And, you know, I was happiest when I was with my brothers and sisters, and I was not with my parents. So that was kind of like my out group. But, you know, for not, I understand that's not the same for everybody. So for some people, it could have been like a bully at school, or it could have been a, you know, like somebody else that's just, you know, fucking with you or making your life shitty. Or maybe it was like somebody that your parents would always point to and be like, don't end up like that. You know what I mean? So yeah. Figure out your out group. These are not all the questions that I would ask yourself. If you guys, some of you guys have done my 18 question framework, and some of you guys haven't. If you guys have done the 18 question framework, then you probably have been asked. You've probably already gotten introspective about this stuff, and you probably have a decent idea. Who here has done the 18 question framework? Hit me in the comments if you've done it. I want to see how many people have done it. If you haven't, then I will be giving that to you at the end of the class. And it's basically a software that I made that basically takes the answers to all of your questions. It asks you a bunch of questions and then takes the answers to all of those questions and kind of like gives you an understanding of how you can kind of turn that into maybe a brand. Yeah. I want to hear, hopefully, in the comments if you guys have done the 18 question framework and how you felt about it. If you have done it, I'm seeing me's pull up. I'm seeing me's start. If you have done it, okay, sick. Did you guys get value out of that? Did you guys have did you guys get honest with yourself? Let's see. Okay, sick. Fuck yeah. Looks like a lot of you guys have done it. Amazing. And you guys have a decent understanding of this stuff. It was pretty great. Sick. Awesome. Love to hear that. Okay, dope. So for those of you who don't, I'm going to send it to you at the end of the class. But for those of you who do, shit's valid. And if you do it, I still do it like routinely just to like get honest with myself on multiple occasions and just kind of get introspective. But yeah, anyways, back to the presentation. So now it's time to define that person with words. It's time to kind of turn that into a bunch of paragraphs and kind of inward thoughts. And it's time to define that person in kind of like a condensed format, in a way that we can show to other people easily, in a way that we can say, okay, well, like, let's take all these inner thoughts and realizations that we're having about ourselves and who we are, who we truly are, who we were from our upbringing, not who we turned into to try and please other people, or who we changed and formed into to fit in, but who we were before we had to fit in, right? Who we were originally and as people, like what formed our fucking identity from the time we were children and growing up, right? Now we need to condense that, and we need to make it something that other people can see and recognize immediately, right? So if you were to tell your whole entire life story and the answers to all of those questions to somebody and say, are me and you the same? They're not even gonna listen to all that stuff because it's just too much to say, right? So now what we need to do is basically find a way to condense those things into words, a few of them, that are going to be the adjectives of your DNA, right? So for me, if I were to narrow down all of who I am and my interests and what my brand is and what my brand is going to be into 3 words, they would be blemished, badass, and vintage. Those would be like my 3 words, like 3 descriptive words that kind of like just sum up my brand as a whole. And it's important to come up with these words because these are going to be essentially the words that other people are going to speak in their head when they see your brand. That should be the goal. The goal should be for you guys, for your people, hang on, oh shit, I lost my slide. For you, for those people to like see these photos on the screen that you're seeing, I'm trying to zoom in, but it won't work, and think those 3 words, right? You want them to think all of those things. So for me, I'm thinking blemished, badass, and vintage, right? You're seeing hints of vintage here and there, old revolvers, old jeans, old newspaper clippings. You're seeing stuff that's like these like boards that I did in my pop-up a few months ago. Those are like from a tobacco barn built like 200 years ago. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of stuff here. Blemished. Stuff like just like rough walls, graphics that are old and vintage, you know what I mean? Sneakers that are mismatched, a back tattoo that's fucking just a bunch of random shit like put together that doesn't really look super fucking, uniform and everything. Vintage, you're seeing kind of like the vintage like film look of like the profile picture and shit. Badass, you're seeing motorcycles, you're seeing drums, you're seeing, just cool hard shit. You're seeing posters from fucking Nazareth, like rock bands. You're seeing t-shirts from rock bands. You're seeing studded hats. You're seeing, like chicks with tattoos. You're seeing, again, like more like just hard, like badass stuff. You know what I'm saying? So essentially your goal here should be to narrow down everything about your brand into 3 words. And obviously, like, you can't do this, like, it's not gonna be perfect, you know what I mean? Not 3, like, there's no 3 words that are perfect. Like, there's maybe another word that I'll come up with later on that like would work better than like the word vintage. That would be maybe a little bit more accurate. All right, but just start thinking about that. Start thinking about the core of your words. Okay, and I actually want to see what some of you guys' words would be off the bat. If you guys have 3 words and you guys had to put 3 words as like the representation for what you want your brand to be, throw it in the chat. I want to fucking see it. Okay, we're seeing rugged, old school, and wild. That's cool. I'm getting Footloose vibes, right? I'm getting Dukes of Hazzard vibes. I like that. See, immediately in my head, I'm drawing references. Of what those words like remind me of. Okay, let's see what else we got. Confident horror street. Okay. I'm seeing like, I don't know, maybe like a Monster High, but like swagified, kind of like matured version. Imperfect, not a quitter, Western vintage. Okay, imperfect, Western vintage, and not a quitter. I would sum up that as like badass, you know what I mean? Let's see, disheveled, dusty, unkempt. I like that. Disheveled, dusty, and unkempt is cool. Rigid, raw, midnight. Okay. I'm thinking immediately in my head, like the midnight is the one that hits. And I'm thinking like the blue, like cool tone scene in Fight Club before all the banks blow up and shit. Let's see. Loud, fast, gothic. Awesome. I'm immediately seeing like Kanye mixed with like fucking Ethel Cain, and like that vibe is coming to mind. Mysterious, elegant, dark. Again, immediately I'm seeing like kind of like a, like a Rick Owens kind of vibe, like very avant-garde, very tall, very lengthened, sharp. That's what comes to mind. So I love this. This is awesome. Sick. So you guys see, this is what I want to see. You guys are thinking now, and you guys are actually putting the ideas of who you are and who you aspire to be into a condensable format that you can turn into, the identity, right? So let's keep going. I fucking love that shit. Good stuff, guys. Alrighty. So basically, those words are going to define your person's niche, your field of interest, your like little thing that you just fuck with, that you like the little flavor that is you. You know what I mean? It's like, whenever you go to get frozen yogurt and shit or ice cream, there's a million different flavors. That's your flavor. Your 3 words, that's kind of like your field of interest. That's your niche. That's your circle. That's your playing field. Whenever you pull up to the fucking YMCA or the field complex, right? It's like you're looking for a field. We got a football turf field over here. We've got a marked field over here, an unmarked field over here, a field with soccer goals here, a tennis court here. Like, pick your playing field. Pick what your interest is, where you align. That's what we're looking for here, So, number 3, now that we have the word, or now that we have the person, we've done the self-reflection, we have the adjectives that describe the person, right? We have the words. Now, we need to define the separation gap, right? The it factor. That's what I'm calling it. Again, just the most simple like term that I can think of. Like, what is the factor that makes your brand stand out? All right. And this needs to feel, your brand needs to feel unique. Your brand needs to feel like something that isn't cliche. It needs to feel like something that isn't what everybody else is doing, right? It needs to feel like something that's like special, right? You need to, like, for your words and shit, right? Some of you guys are finding words that are like, ooh, right? And then some of you guys are finding words like, like unique, like yeah, obviously we want it to be unique, but like you need a word that is unique. You know what I'm saying? Or some of you guys are like edgy. You know what I'm saying? Yes, edgy is a word that can describe the brand, but we need something that's like, okay, what's like a fucking, you know what I mean? Like a word that's more specific, right? We want to get specific. We want to get distinct. We want to get tangible. You know what I'm saying? So every element in your brand needs to make somebody come to a conclusion. It needs to be polarizing, and it needs to be something that makes people think this is for me for sure. This is my shit. I'm fucking with this. Or this is definitely not for me, so much so that I don't like it. There should be no neutral, right? There should be no, oh, it's cool for everybody. Oh, this is like, you know what I mean? Like there should be no neutral. This should be like, this is my shit or it's not my shit. It needs to be polarizing. It needs to be fucking electrifying. It needs to be something that's like people love it or they hate it, right? It needs to be kind of like politics. You know what I'm saying? Like people in politics, not to get on a politic fucking rant, but like they make themselves polarizing. They make themselves present themselves in a way that forces people to say, I'm with you or I'm against you, right? Like most of the people like in politics running for president, they don't even believe like all the shit that they say. They're just taking that position because it forces people to say, I'm with you or I'm not with you, right? Experts would call that social engineering. I call it manipulation. So, but essentially that's sales, you know what I mean? That's like creating something distinct is about standing on your 2 feet where you exist. Okay. It's about being distinct, and it's about like standing for something, because if you don't stand for anything, if you don't stand for something, you don't stand for anything. You're fucking just existing. You're not a real human being that's like maneuvering and like actually moving through life and through the earth. You're just fucking there. You know what I mean? You're just there to exist and float in existence. And that's not what creates a successful brand. A successful brand is tangible. A successful brand does not fucking move. It's solid and it's rock solid, and people have to say I like it or I don't like it. All right? So let's talk about how to find the separation gap. In e-commerce, we call this a unique selling point. And it's essentially why people go to your brand instead of the brand next door, right? Why people go to purchase from Tame Psychotic instead of going to purchase from Dickies, right? Like what is the separation factor? What's the gap? What's the unique selling point? And the way to find this is starting with competitor research, okay? So you're gonna take your niche, which we found earlier, right? Your 3 words, that should give you a pretty decent idea of what your niche is. And then you're gonna find the biggest brands that serve that niche. You're gonna go, those brands already exist. There's brands that already serve every niche, regardless of how they do it. They serve that niche in some way, shape, or form, right? You're gonna go to the biggest brands in your niche. You're gonna break down their brand. You're going to break down what they're doing. You're going to break down how they're doing it. You're going to break down what products do they make, and you're going to break down why do people like the products. You're going to do like an audit of the brand. You're going to look at all the posts on Instagram. You're going to go to their website in their bio. You're going to scroll through. You're going to look at the products. You're going to look at the about section. You're going to look at kind of what posts on Instagram got a lot of likes versus what posts on Instagram didn't get a lot of likes. You're going to look at what posts are pinned on their page and have millions of views versus what posts have 2,000 views and didn't really do anything at all. You're going to look at the founders, right? You're going to go and look into the following on the Instagram page and see who they follow. You're going to tap into all the creators that they follow, and you're going to see who are these people? Like what are they doing? Like what's so special about them, right? You're going to find their strengths, and then you're going to find their weaknesses, right? And the strengths are just like what's pushing them, right? Is it their content? Is it a certain piece of clothing? Is it a certain way of speaking that they use? Is it a certain presentation? Is it something like what's the positive feedback? Go to the comments of their Instagram post and figure out, okay, what are people saying that they do like about the brand, right? Do they really like this product, or do they really like the website, or do they really like the email discounts that they get for being an email and SMS subscriber? Or do they really like a certain type of content that's just pulling people in? What is it? Do they really like a certain graphic that's referenced from a certain, piece of art that they really enjoy, right? What are their strengths? Find their strengths and make a list of them, okay? But make sure that these brands are in your niche. If these brands are not in your niche, that doesn't fucking help you at all. That's why the first step is find the biggest brands in your niche. And that's why we talked about niche before we talked about competitor research. So number 3, adopt the strengths. Make a list of the strengths and make sure to own them. Like, you own those strengths. Those are my fucking strengths now. I'm gonna make those my strengths. Whatever needs to be done to make those my strengths, I'm gonna make that shit my own, okay? The next step is going to be market research. Market research is less about looking at other brands as a competitor and more about looking at the products and the consumable moments from the brands, right? And content is consumable, products are consumable, events are consumable, anything that people can go and like take from, you know what I mean? Whether they're taking an experience from it or a product from it, something physical, whatever it is, right? You're going to take note of what experiences do people in your niche like, right? Whether it's music, events, desires, pain, dreams, hobbies, whatever it is, right? Figure out what they like and then find multiple brands in the same niche and find recurring problems in the comments and reviews. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to help you figure out what to do better than the other brands. It's going to help you figure out what that separation gap is, what the market opportunity is. Like, where is the opening in the market? Where can I give this niche something that these guys are not giving them? And how can I give them all the good that these guys are giving them, right? So you want to take the good in the market, and then you want to find the bad, and then you want to develop solutions for the gaps in the other brands. That's it, right? Take your research, develop solutions for the gaps in the other brands, and then pair them with the strengths that you picked out from the brand. So not every brand is bad, right? Not every brand is, and to some of you guys, they may have, like, you know, some brands may be perfect, but I'm telling you right now, no brand is fucking perfect. And I know this from doing years and years of research. If you look hard enough, you'll find it. Comments, reviews, TikToks, all of that shit is a great way to find it. Reddit is a great way to find it. I'm sure there's like people who've complained about my brand, maybe got a defective product, or, you know, something went like there was a delay from the shipping or whatever with the product or whatever, right? If you looked hard enough, you could probably find it, like in like a comment or something. And no brand is perfect. And if you think your brand is perfect, then you're lying. You're lying. That doesn't exist. There is no perfect brand, and every brand has strengths and every brand has weaknesses. But just like human beings, you know what I'm saying? And as a brand owner, you need to be aware of other people's weaknesses so that you can capitalize on those, right? And to like, use basic logic here. What was fucking Tom Brady doing before the Super Bowl every single year before he played the Super Bowl? What was he looking for? He was watching footage of the other team, and he was looking for a weakness. He was looking for a weakness in their defense. He was looking for a weakness in their offense. He was looking for a weakness in how they communicate. He was looking for any little tiny fucking advantage that he could collect and say, I'm going to capitalize on that. I'm going to do it better, right? I'm going to make sure that your weakness is my strength, right? Because that's where I will overcome you. And that's where I have an opportunity to gain an advancement, right? And that's what you guys are looking for. You guys are looking for an opportunity to make the other brands in your niche, their weaknesses, your strengths, and to also have their strengths, right? Because if you can pile up strengths, that's literally like how you develop a good customer experience. That's how you develop good products. That's how you develop good positioning. That's how you kind of like just speak a louder signal than everybody else. That's just how you blow up. That's in essence the way that you fucking, you build a brand, right? So now we could talk about products. All right, this whole fucking presentation, we're how many minutes into this thing? I don't even know. There's an hour and a half. Whole time we haven't talked about products, and it's because it wasn't time to talk about products. But now we can talk about products, because now we know who we're selling to and why they're going to buy from us, right? Once you guys have that research in, now you understand what products to make, right? Without considering all that shit that we talked about before, products are just going to be fucking random shit that you pick out and you're like, oh, I mean, yeah, that's cool. Like, other people like it, right? And what you're going to find yourself doing is before making a conclusion about whether or not you like the product, you're going to go to the comments and see, do other people like this product? You're going to go see which one has the most likes, and then you're going to form your opinion. All right? That's being a sheep. Being a brand owner is being a tastemaker. Being a brand owner is having opinions for yourself. Being a brand owner is not about just doing what other people do and liking what other people like and adopting the opinion of everybody else so that you can fit in with everybody else or be liked by everybody else. Being a brand owner is about being an individualist and then capitalizing on your individualism and your taste and what makes you a distinct person, what makes you a fucking different human being from everybody else, because the market doesn't want something that they've seen a million times. They don't want another fucking Hellstar, okay? We don't need another Hellstar because Hellstar exists. They don't want another Represent because Represent already exists, okay? If you subscribe to the Represent taste and you're like, I'm gonna make clothes like Represent, and you're just following what somebody else is doing. You're not providing anything new to the market, which is why this whole thing is important and why your brand needs to be an extension of self. It needs to be an extension of your taste. It needs to be a fucking, just a limb that is on your body that is just also part of your body. That's why, if we go to like Instagram, right? If we go to this shit, this looks like damn near identical to this shit, right? It's like, it looks the same. Why does it look the same? Because it's like, it needs to, you know what I mean? It's the same, like this, my brand is my taste. It's a part of my body. It's like the things that I love and the things that I like have an affinity for, just extended out, right? And like made into products that I like. None of the products that are here look out of place. Everything looks like it belongs here because it is a product of my taste. I am the taste maker for this community of people. And this is like, my taste is like, it's like a concoction that doesn't exist yet, right? It's a concoction that doesn't exist. And why am I able to make a concoction that doesn't exist? Hang on, listen here. This is important. I'm going to actually go back to Facecam for a second. The reason I am able to make a concoction of things that doesn't exist yet is because I am honest with myself about what I truly like, and I choose to indulge in what I truly like rather than just jumping on the train of what everybody else likes so that I can make sense to other people, right? I don't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. I am one of those people that you either really fucking align with and you're just like, wow, we are on the same page, or you really don't align with. That's how I've always been. I've been a polarizing person since the beginning because, and I'm grateful for this, but I didn't go to school, so I didn't have, and this is why I'm teaching this, is because I'm grateful that I didn't go to school because I didn't have the need to like look good to the other kids. I didn't have the need to like the same shit as the other kids. I didn't listen to the same music as the other kids. I didn't watch the same movies as the other kids. I didn't dress the same as the other kids, right? Everything about me was pretty much formed by my parents or by my life, like the hobbies that I was doing, right? So my style was largely from like hand-me-downs, getting hand-me-downs and just picking stuff out of my closet that my parents put in the closet, right? My music choice and preference was a product of what my parents were playing on the DVD player in the car. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't about like, what are all the cool kids at school listening to? And, whether you guys want to admit it or not, all of us have a desire to please other people. All of us have a desire to fit in, to have relatability with other people. And a lot of us are doing things to have that relatability that we don't even fucking like. You know what I mean? A lot of you guys are listening to Drake on the radio, and you don't even like Drake. It's just that everybody at school is listening to Drake, right? You don't even like this popular thing or whatever. If you're really honest with yourself, like, would you do it if nobody was watching? You know what I mean? Or like, that is what I'm getting at here. Like, part of being a brand owner is being an individualistic person that has their own taste, that has a unique concoction of interest and visual elements and creative ideas to offer. Not It's not a fucking package deal that everybody gets when they go to school, right? Not a package deal that everybody gets when they go and watch fucking, I don't know, like Travis Scott or Luke Bryan at Lollapalooza or whatever, fucking Rolling Loud or whatever. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, oh shit, they're wearing that shit. Like, that shit's so hard. They're cool. They're so cool, right? Like, that's where this shit comes from. Right? That's why, like, that's essentially, you need to become that person rather than saying, I'm going to become the people in the crowd that are all saying that's cool and just doing whatever they think is cool and whatever everybody else likes. You need to become the person that is influencing the taste of the people around you. You need to become the person that is like, I'm going to figure out, what do I fucking internally like? What do I like? What makes me? And that's why the 18 question framework is really, really important. And that's why self-awareness is really important. And that's why it's like this whole lesson is really important. I'm not even talking about clothes right now. Okay. I'm talking about being a creative, right? Because being a brand owner is not all about clothes. And so many of you guys, and this frustrates me, you think it's like, everybody's like, how do I make clothes? How do I make clothes? How do I make clothes? Tell me how to make clothes. Stop talking. Like, I don't want to know how to, you're not like, if you don't know yourself and you're not honest with yourself and you're not practicing like individualism and being an individualistic person with your own taste and preferences and values that isn't influenced by other people and what everybody else is liking, then you are not ready to make clothes. Okay? That's just how it is. Okay? This comes first. And I know this isn't what you guys wanted to hear. You guys didn't sign up for this workshop so that you could come and get told, that like you're liking what everybody else is liking and that you're not ready to make clothes. You are ready to make clothes, right? But what needs to come first is that honesty with self, that development of true, authentic interest and desires. You need to have an understanding and an awareness of self, of what really fucking shaped you into the person that you are today, right? Most people in their late 30s and 40s will tell you that you typically end up going back to what you enjoyed as a child, right? And it's because of this, right? Whenever you're a child, you go to school, you go to work, you go into the workforce, you want to be accepted, you no longer have your family to lean on to, you want to get a girlfriend, you want to get friends, you want to be accepted, so you subscribe to the interests and whatever of the people who sit at the cool table that you want to sit at, right? Everybody wants to sit at the cool table. Okay? When they go to lunchroom, everybody wants to sit at the cool table. So what do? You go and sit at the cool table and you're like, how do I be like these guys? Oh, I need to do this, 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 and this. So you do that, right? And then one day you realize, holy fuck, I'm not having actually any fun here. I thought these people were cool. And now I've matured and realized I don't even really identify with these people. I don't even feel like I'm here. I have nothing to say. They have nothing to offer me and I have nothing to offer them. What am I doing? And then you eventually just go back to what you liked before, which is what you liked as a kid before you had anybody to impress, right? Whenever you're drawing a picture as a kid, right? And it's like you're drawing a picture. You don't even know if anybody's gonna look at it. Maybe your parents. Maybe you're drawing a picture for your parents. But at the end of the day, you're drawing a picture how you like it. You're coloring in the coloring book how you like it. You know what I'm saying? You're not thinking about, what are my friends at school going to think? Or what are my coworkers at work going to think? Or what are my friends in this circle going to think, right? You're creating art like a child. And it's uninfluenced. It's not influenced. And that is where you need to be. That is what the 18 question framework does. That is what we're actually talking about today. And that is what is going to unlock your ability to create products like nobody else is creating, and to create Instagram content like nobody else is creating, and to create world building and a dynamic that nobody else is creating. And that is what most brand owners who are at this like they're like this like, kind of like mid-range level where they're like, maybe they've done 10K with their clothing brand, or they've done maybe even like 100K with their clothing brand, right? Most of these guys are just finding like a good product and like selling it. And they're like subconsciously kind of doing some of this stuff, right? But they're not consciously doing it. And because they're not consciously doing it, they kind of just veer off after a bit, right? And then they start doing shit that starts killing the brand. And then the brand dies. And then they're like, what happened? I thought I was killing it, right? And trust me, I know, because I've been through that dip. I've veered off myself. I understand what that's like. And because I now know all this stuff, because I've written for research for like 6 years on this stuff, I can help you guys get ahead of that curve, nail this shit from the jump so that you can make great products. Okay, so that you can have a brand that just doesn't just die after the first product that you kind of like happen to come across, whatever died. You know what I'm saying? Like that. What I'm saying is essentially what I've been through. Okay, what I'm saying is essentially the lessons that I have learned, and I'm a very introspective person. I have like autism for sure, and I just go down rabbit holes, and I'm very good at like, one of the things I am grateful for is my ability to just think and like uncover things about myself and just be honest with myself. And honesty with myself is probably the thing that's gotten me the furthest along in my life, to be honest, which is why I'm trying to like, I built the 18 question framework, and why, I'm teaching this stuff right now. But if you guys can understand that stuff, you will truly that's how you make fucking art, dude. Art is not regurgitation of what you see on Instagram, right? It's half of it is referencing, right? But it's about truly understanding what is authentic to you, what is authentic to your interests, what is pure, right? So now we're going to get back to the presentation. Okay. Shit. Where is it? There we go. So product, all right? What is your product? The answer is, what can you make for people? And what can you make for your people? And how can you incorporate the it factor? Okay? The separation gap, the unique selling point, right? The special thing that makes people stop buying from this brand and start buying from your brand because you offer something that they do not offer. And again, a lot of this is introspection, and a lot of this goes back to the person, which is why we talked about the person before we talked about the product. And we're talking about the person and the product and all this identity shit before we even talking about making a Shopify store or getting on Alibaba and finding a supplier, because none of that shit fucking matters until you understand this and you're making products that actually align with the person. Okay? I'm not trying to, again, my whole entire goal here, stated from the beginning, is not to waste your time. I want you to leave hearing something and learning something that you've never heard before, or that like actually is like actionable, that you can change immediately. So let's talk about the it factor. Let's talk about like how to incorporate that it factor. What does this whole thing mean? Okay? How do we do this with product? Let's go back to the presentation. The golden question is, how can you take what already exists and make it better? You're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, okay? You're trying to make the wheel better. You're trying to refresh the wheel. You're trying to take an idea that already has proof of concept, right? Trying to take an idea that's already appreciated, that people already like and enjoy, and you're trying to change it a little bit to make it something that people enjoy more than the previous iteration, okay? Virgil Abloh calls this the 3% rule. Most of you guys know the 3% rule. If you've done any kind of research, it's kind of like the first thing that most people learn when it comes to like the clothing brand stuff is the 3% rule. Take something that already exists, change it by 3%, and now it's refreshed into something new. That's what he did with, the Off-White sneaker collabs and all that shit. That's his philosophy for creating. It's a great philosophy, and most of you guys need to understand that you're not like you're not like Rick Owens. You know what I mean? You're not living in a state of consciousness that is like so far removed from everything else that you have access to these ideas that are just not even in existence. Like, you've not thought of anything that somebody hasn't thought of before or thought of in a very, very similar fashion or iteration, okay? So your goal here should essentially be to take something that already exists, to change it by 3% and make it better, or make it more suited for your people. And that's the trick, all right? That's how you make products. You don't take a product and you don't take nothing in your head and you're like, okay, what am I gonna make? Blank canvas, white screen, boom. What do you picture, right? That's not how it works. How art works, and this goes from music to paintings, to buildings, to architecture, to clothing, just art across the board. The way that it works is the artist is inspired by something. They see something, right? They see something and they have an affinity for it. They have an appreciation for it. They admire it, right? They are inspired by that thing, right? Now they want to create something because they saw that awesome thing get created and appear in existence, right? And what they're thinking about as they're making something, they're inspired to make something, like you guys, right? You guys probably saw me make something, and now you're inspired to make something. So now the energy is looping back. Now you're trying to make something, right? What are you thinking about when you're trying to make something cool, right? Now you've decided, I'm going to make something, right? what are you thinking about? Well, more than likely, you're thinking about what you saw that inspired you, right? That's how art works. And what you're going to make is going to be an iteration of what somebody that inspired you made, right? So for example, if I'm inspired by the Sistine Chapel, and then I go and make a graphic on a t-shirt, more than likely, when I'm thinking about the graphic and I'm thinking about what to put on the graphic or what to make the graphic into, right? I'm thinking about the Sistine Chapel, right? And that is going to influence my elements that I choose to plug into the program. You know what I'm saying? So you guys essentially need to, again, take what already exists that inspires you and make it better. Now, this needs to be a product for your people, not for everybody. It needs to be a product for the people who are like you. Again, goes back to the person. Everything goes back to the person. Everything goes back to the person. And that is why it's so important to understand this fucking self-reflection awareness shit, these exercises. That's why I'm taking an entire fucking like presentation to like, when I say foundation, this is what I mean. I don't mean your Instagram and Shopify and fucking Klaviyo and that bullshit. We'll get into that stuff tomorrow, right? Today is about the what. Tomorrow is about the how, okay? Today we're focusing on the what, and the what all goes back to your person, okay? A reflection of you, people who are like you, like-minded people, okay? So the product needs to be for your people, not for everybody, right? Just your people. And a lot of people are going to see this and be like, oh, well, like, if I want to sell a lot of product, then, you know, the products need to be something that a lot of people like, okay? It needs to be something that everybody likes, right? And that's everybody's philosophy getting into e-commerce, and that's why most people fail, is because they think that the key to making a lot of money, right, and getting a lot of followers and a lot of blah, 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 is making something that a lot of people will like. But that's the fast track to becoming lame as fuck, okay? And I'll show you proof, okay? Why not everybody? Because the guys on the screen have more leverage, and you cannot compete with these guys, right? Do you want to be like Walmart? Do you want to be like Macy's? Do you want to be like Dillard's? Do you want to be like Shein? These guys sell clothes that everybody likes. These guys have something for everyone. These guys make products that everybody will buy, okay? All of these guys are lame as fuck to me. Dillard's is lame. Walmart is lame. You think I'm buying clothes from Shein or Macy's? Like, no, I think it's lame, okay? Because it's not made for me, okay? And even if I wanted to build a big brand just for a bunch of money, let's say I had no emotional involvement in this. I didn't give a fuck about it. I just wanted to make money, right? I still wouldn't make clothing for everybody because Walmart is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They have more exposure. They have more advertising abilities. They have billboards. They have fucking in-person stores. You can walk to a Walmart more than likely in less than 30 minutes from wherever you stand anywhere in the world. They have Walmarts in Asia and shit, I'm pretty sure. They're like Macy's, they're in every single mall. Dillard's, every single mall. Shein, it's the most affordable like clothing ever. It's cheap as fuck. You can get a golf shirt for like $3 on Shein, right? Like stuff like this, like you're never going to compete with these guys, okay? There's no point in doing it. And these guys are lame as fuck anyways. You don't want to compete with them, right? So instead, what you're going to do is you're going to take an interest beyond just something to wear, which is what most of you guys are doing. You're taking, you know, I need to wear clothing, or I need to wear pants, or I need to wear jeans, or I need to wear a t-shirt. You're going to take an interest that goes beyond that, okay? It doesn't need to be, like a lot of you guys are thinking probably right now, gym clothes, right? Clothes for the gym. I have a lot of people that come to me and they're like, oh, I want to make a gym wear brand, you know? And that isn't going to take you anywhere because there needs to be an interest or an aligning factor between people that exists outside of just a need to wear clothes, right? We all have a need to wipe our asses after we take a shit, right? But toilet paper is not what we're trying to sell. Toilet paper, there's no cool toilet paper brands, okay? So there needs to be an interest that aligns your community and your customers and the people who are engaging with the brand that goes beyond just the need to have something to wear, okay? And then you make it sick. You make it sick as fuck for one certain type of person. And if you can make something sick as fuck for one certain type of person, then you can, that thing is sick as fuck for all the people like that one type of person. Do you really think that you're the only person on earth that like enjoys what you enjoy or has an interest in what you have an interest in, like if you do, then you're delusional. You know what I mean? Like if you think that you are so different that there's not a single other person on earth that would appreciate the same things you appreciate, then you're living under a rock, my friend, because there's tons of people like me. I may think that I'm unique and I'm all special and individualistic and whatnot, but there's fucking loads of people like me. You guys know my story. You guys know my story is like insane and like crazy and like what the fuck, but there's tons of people like me. The amount of people I posted on my story the other day that this lady like told me who my real dad was a couple of days ago, and the amount of people who swiped up on my story and were like, bro, like that's actually crazy, I just found out who my brother was after like 22 years, you know what I mean? Or I just found out who my mom, like it was probably at least like 30 people that swiped up and had the same thing happen to them. And I'm like, holy shit, like there's tons of other people like me. You know what I mean? And I'm still having that realization, and I'm teaching you guys this shit that I've been teaching this for a long time, right? So if you guys can, you know, like understand that there's other people like you, and that if you just make specific shit for a specific person, you make it sick for one type of person, that is where you're gonna win, okay? I want you guys to, I didn't have this in the presentation, and I honestly should have, but we're gonna call this the window of opportunity. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to imagine a triangle upside down, right? The big part at the top, the big wide part at the top, and it all tapers down to like a point at the bottom, right? So you got this triangle, and this triangle is two parts, okay? There's this part, the top part that goes like this, right? And then there's the bottom part, that's the little triangle, and then the big part of the triangle. Hopefully my illustrations hands are doing well. So this big part of the triangle, this is where most people are. This is the mainstream. This is people who buy clothing just to have clothing on their back, right? Where are these people shopping? Well, they're shopping right here. They're shopping at Walmart. So Walmart is up here, right? They're in this top part of the triangle. Dillard's up here. Shein's up here. These people don't have like niched interests and shit. They're not buying clothes with their niched interest or lifestyle in mind, right? So the bottom half of the triangle, what do we call the bottom half of the triangle? We call it the window of opportunity. Why is it the window of opportunity? Because there's down here in this bottom half of the triangle, this is where the niched interests live. Okay, up here, Walmart. What niched interests do you find at Walmart? What niched interests are you going to find in Shein? Probably none, right? So the bottom half of the triangle is where you find the niched interest. And the niched interest is where you're going to find the niched communities. And the niche communities need to be served. That's where the window of opportunity is. The window of opportunity exists where a niched community is not being served. It exists where a group of people who are aligned under one single interest or affinity are not being served. Okay? And now I know, again, a lot of this stuff is like, a lot of you are probably like, get to the point, let's start making a product, You need to understand this shit, because if you're making products without any of this stuff in mind, you're wasting your fucking time. Again, I know this because everything I'm saying, I'm speaking from experience. I'm not making this shit up. None of this stuff. All right? It would be a waste of my fucking time. So, yeah, that's the window of opportunity, and that's where you want to live. Okay? So, an example. This is one of my students. His name is Christian. His brand, Wood Grain Golf. Wood Grain is not selling like golf clothes. They're selling like the old. They're not selling like the Tiger Woods stuff that everybody's wearing today, like the polos and your regular shorts and stuff. They're selling like the vintage, the old school shit, right? Not everybody's wearing the old school shit. Not everybody has an interest in the old school shit, right? But some people do, right? And those people didn't have a brand for this like 50s country club era of golf before Wood Grain Golf existed. And now Wood Grain Golf exists, and now Wood Grain Golf serves a community that was not being served before. It serves a niche interest, a niche affinity that was not being served before. Christian, I started working with him last year in like June or July. I think it was July. And by Black Friday, he did, I think he did like 60K in like 3 hours in one day on Black Friday. And he scaled his brand to like 100K in less than 3 months. And he's looking to cross the $1 million mark this year, which is insane considering it's like been about a year since he started. So this is a great example. I just wanted to show you guys. So another example, right? Beaumont Club focuses on 90s, the early 2000s football nostalgia with streetwear, retro national team jerseys and stuff. Again, it's like a certain part of the interest. It's not like, you know, soccer as a whole. It's more so like a specific era of like preference for like that interest. So it's like you have the interest and then you have the sub niched part of that interest. That's a certain thing. We'll take motorcycles, for example. So there's motorcycles, and in your head, some of you guys are thinking like piss missile crotch rockets, like the, you know, S1000s or, you know, whatever, fucking Aprilia or, you know, Ducatis. And then there's Harleys, right? And some of you guys are thinking the big giant like road glides with the huge fairing on the front and the big baggers, you know what I mean? And some of you guys are thinking the super lean small choppers, right? So those are all different parts of the interest, right? It's all different parts of the niche. There's motorcycles, which is the umbrella, and then there's, you know, choppers and sport bikes and, you know, baggers and dirt bikes and Triumphs and the British bikes and the fucking pre-war bikes, and, you know, you've got all these different fucking types of shit. And that's like where you need to be thinking of, like, and that's why we need to get distinct. Right? And that's why I asked you guys all those questions about your fucking self and try to get you guys to get introspective, because if you can understand those little nitpicky things, all right? For me, how did I find Choppers? Well, I found Choppers because as a book, there was a catalog. It wasn't even a catalog. It was a red book. I think his name is like Tom Tafferty or something like that, that I was given when I was a kid. It was a big red Harley Davidson history book, and it was like all the different models. And I remember one specific bike. It was a Frisco mounted chopper that I would always turn to, and whenever I turned there, I would just stop, right? That's how I know, like, from the beginning, I've had that intrigue on that specific bike, right? It wasn't any of the Dynas, and it wasn't the fucking, you know, your road glides and your FXRs and shit. It was the chopper. I don't know what I liked about it, but I just fucked with it, right? So yeah, that's kind of like that niche kind of thing. And if I can understand that as a child, I can be like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I fucking love that shit. Holy shit. I was pulled away from that, right? I got on TikTok and stuff, and I got a fucking sport bike because that was what everybody else was fucking with at the time. It was what everybody else was getting views from. You know what I mean? All the chicks loved the guys on the sport bikes, the wah, 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 you know, I mean, that kind of shit. And, you know, I was pulled away from something that I actually truly loved, right, into the wah, wah, wah bikes. And then one day I woke up and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I haven't ridden in 6 months. Why? I love riding. Why haven't I ridden in 6 months? Well, it was because I wasn't really, I like I said, you kind of always go back to what you liked as a kid. You kind of always go out, you try all this stuff, you self-discover, right? You're looking for this, and then you kind of just go back to, oh wait, I actually really just like this. And you listen to, and you go back to that. So yeah, find the sub-niche interest, okay? So the most important question tonight, who is your brand actually for? Not everybody, one person. Picture them. That one person, again, is either you or who you aspire to be. Type it in the chat. I want to hear something. I want to hear what you guys think. I want to hear that one person. Who is that one person? I haven't even looked at the chat for a fat minute, low key. Okay, it looks like you guys are getting good stuff from this. Looks like you guys are enjoying this. That was my hope. I'm glad you guys are fucking with this. Okay, me. Nice. That's what I want to see. It's you. The one person is going to be you or who you aspire to be. That's what I'm saying. That you guys are finally getting it. You guys, my brother and me. Exactly. Yeah. You guys are getting this now. And now that you understand this, dude, I'm telling you, your products that you make, which again, we're going to go into that tomorrow, day 2, that's when we get into all the how, right? But now that you know who you're truly making products for, how to make products that you are going to be able to make awesome, right? I can't make toilet paper awesome or gear for, flute players awesome because I'm not a fucking flute player, right? I can make gear for bikers awesome though, because I ride bikes and I know what works and I know what doesn't work, right? I know how to make gear for people who enjoy guns because I have an affinity and an interest for guns, right? I've been through 1,000,001 fucking magazines from the 60s. You know, I own like a bunch of the Smith and Wesson catalogs and shit. I've shot a ton of guns. I just love that, right? And that's who I am. So like I can make stuff that's awesome for people like who I am. So if I know who I am and I know that I need to make clothes for people like me, my clothes are going to be way better, right? My content's going to be way better. My videos are going to be way better. All right. And put it like, I'll show you another example. Let's say I want to sell my clothes, right? And I want to make a video to sell the clothes. Okay. What kind of video am I going to make? Well, I'm not going to go and look at the first thing that comes up to me on TikTok. I'm going to figure out, what have I enjoyed? What have I really enjoyed? What has landed with me, right? For me, one of the videos that I really enjoyed was Mark Kirkland's 50 weight Monument Valley trip video on YouTube, right? So for me, the ad that I made recently for the video was referenced and influenced by that. That landed well with me. I'm selling clothes to people like me. What's going to sell clothes to people like me? Probably content that I liked that other people like me will also like, right? It all goes back to the person. How did these people want to be spoken to? Probably how I enjoyed being spoken to. What music do these people like? Probably the music I like, right? That is how it goes. You got to lead from the front. You are the tastemaker for people like you. That's how you do it, all right? And guys, I've trained creative directors. I've done like actual like high level consulting for big companies, and I tell them all the same thing. All right. I tell them all the same thing. I'm not telling you guys this because you're beginners. If you're a brand owner, you've made $200K from your brand this year. Awesome. Congratulations. This is still important. And you can make $200K from your brand without this, but you won't make $1 million. You won't make $2 million. You won't make $10 million. You won't be doing this for maybe longer than like a couple of years. Okay. This is important for longevity. If you want to do this for any longer than like a year, 2 years, again, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll make a product that kind of goes viral or whatever. More than likely, you're just copying a trend. And when you copy trends, maybe you'll get a quick little bubble of success, right? And then it's gone. And then you're cooked because you have nowhere to go from there. So yeah, that's what we went over today. So yeah, that's the most important question of the evening. Let's keep going. So now, going back to your person, creating a brand identity, I want you to picture the exact person. What their interests are, who they aspire to be, what makes them feel seen, what they loved growing up, what they would wear, what they would never wear, who they would want to be seen as, what did they stand for. The more that you can understand that person, the more that you can tailor your brand and message to speak to that person, okay? And again, this doesn't need to be you to a T. It could be who you aspire to be, right? It could be you plus the interests that you have, or the like aspirations and inspirations that you have, right? And here's a bonus. Character references. I talk a lot about references, and and whenever I'm coaching or teaching or creating in general, references are everything when it comes to art. Like any artist or brand owner or designer knows that references are everything. One type of reference that I would encourage you guys to really think about and look into is character references. Character references are like people that you believe embody what you'd like your brand to embody. So if you could have anybody be the face of your brand, who would it be? Would it be, Tilda Swinton? Would it be Serena Williams? Would it be Jason Momoa? Would it be Kanye West? Would it be, you know what I mean? Let's see. Would it be Vince Neil? Would it be Chris Cornell? Would it be, fucking, I don't know, like anybody, anybody that you think of in your head of like, oh shit, like if I could have one face of the brand, unlimited money, could pay them whatever to be the face of the brand, who would it be? Type in the chat. I actually want to hear this. This is always an interesting one. I always get interesting like what, donkey. Nice. Okay. Sick. Javier Bardem, Kendrick, Zendaya. Okay. Myself. No one else. Fair. Anthony Bourdain, that's a good one. Wisdom K, it's a good one. Kai Cenat, maybe not a great one, but maybe it's a good. We'll give it to you. Terrence McKenna, cool. Timothy Chalamet, Jesus Christ, dub. I like that one. Travis Pastrana, also a dub. I like that one. Let's see. Jason Statham, that's a good one. Giveon, Brandon Lee, that's pretty cool. I like it. Sick. Okay, yeah. I just wanted to give you guys a bonus here, just because it gets you thinking, right? When you think about, when you think about who it is that you would want to be the face of your brand, you start thinking about traits and qualities that those people have, and you start drawing parallels, and you start understanding like, oh shit, like, I could low-key fucking put that in a video, or I could like add that to my design. And another great thing about character references is you can pull from your character references style in terms of products. So for example, we'll take Jason Momoa, for example, because Jason Momoa is one of my character references. He's probably he wears like a lot of workwear. He wears a lot of denim. He wears a lot of clothing that is functional for his lifestyle. And his lifestyle is, riding motorcycles, acting, doing art, photography, all of that shit. So it's going to be stuff that's going to look elevated, but also kind of like work along with his lifestyle, right? So more than likely, if he would be a character reference for myself, then I would be pulling like ideas from his style, right? And a few other, there's several different other character references I have. I don't have one singular character reference that I'm like, oh, that's the guy. To be honest, it's like there's a lot of them. There's so many of them pulled from just movies, like Travis from fucking, why is the name of the movie escaping me at the moment? I can't remember the movie. I forgot the name of the movie. My brain's blanking at the moment. But, dude, there's a million characters from movies and TV shows and books and stuff that I've read that I would be like, that's the fucking guy. Like, I would love to have him on my team. You know what I mean? So this is a good exercise to think about. Anyways, let's keep going. So let's talk about point of view. Point of view is what we talked about in the very beginning. Remember, we talked about brand. Point of view is just your taste made visible, okay? Your opinion on what's good versus what's mid said out loud in the tangible form of a product, okay? It's where you get to put your specific preference into your clothing, right? Taste is something that I want to talk about for a second, because we have a little bit of time too right now. So taste is essentially your personal draw to something. Whenever you are personally drawn to this rather than this, that is taste, right? Taste is, it's in the simplest form, it's preference. It's I prefer this to this, right? So like taste in food, I like spicy food versus not spicy food. I like sweet food versus I like savory food, right? You don't have to like either or. Every person's sense of taste is unique, right? But taste is something that is a reflection of like you as an individual, like at your core, right? Taste can be regurgitated, right? Taste can be copied. Your taste could be copied from somebody else's taste, right? So let's say I go to school in 9th grade. I want to be like Jimmy and, I want to be like Jimmy and Bart and Elmo at the table over there. I want to be like those guys, right? So you could match your taste to those people, but now you're not an individual. Now you're just another kind of like just copy of, more than likely, a copy. You know what I mean? Or maybe they're an individual person. But the reason I think that practicing self-awareness is so important is so that you can actually develop taste. Because taste is, in my opinion, and quote me on this, taste, in my opinion, is the biggest moat that a brand owner can have. It's not money. When you don't have money and you don't have resources and you don't have a network, taste is your biggest moat. I think that's a quote from Alex Garcia. And that is real as fuck, right? My biggest advantage is not my money. It's not my connections. It's not my network. My biggest advantage is my taste, because I I have been very intentional for years now to develop my taste. So I know better than most people who live a similar life that I live, what's good versus what's mid, because I watch a lot of things and I consume a lot of things, right? So like for me, I know the good movies in my interests from the shitty movies in my interests. I know the good clothing and the good companies that make good clothing in my interest versus the shitty companies and the shitty clothing in my interest. Why? Because I have touched it, I have felt it, I have worn it, I have watched those videos, I have watched the movies, I have I haven't read some of the books. I'm honestly not much of a reader, but I've done those things. You know what I mean? And the more you do, and the more you consume with intent, the better your taste is. The more you know what's good versus what's mid. And if you can make stuff that's good and not mid, then you can be the winner because your product is better. Right? Having good taste is very, very, very important. And that's kind of like what point of view is. Point of view is the way that you see the world, and say, I like this, and I like this, and I like this. And I don't really like that as much, you know what I mean? But this is hard as fuck. That is your taste, right? Taste is something that's very good to be aware of, because once you are aware of it, you can kind of like enhance it, right? I took a year in 2024 and I was like, this year, I'm going to get immaculate fucking taste, right? And I spent a year watching all the movies that I had ever wanted to watch or had like a slight desire to watch or were suggested by people who had similar interests as me. I listened to all the music that was suggested by people who had similar interests as me or who had, an interest in the music that I already listened to. I went in and touched probably thousands of vintage pieces of vintage clothing, whether it was denim or t-shirts. I went to showrooms. I went to bins. I went to Goodwill. I went to fucking vintage markets. I went to flea markets. I went to Rose Bowl. I went to all that shit, and I fucking just soaked it all in. And because I was intentional to do that, my taste is better than other people's, because think about it like this, all right? Let's say me and the person sitting beside me, we'll call him Ben, are both trying to sell you a pair of jeans. Now, Ben has seen 10 pair of jeans in his entire lifetime. I have seen 100 pair of jeans in my entire lifetime. We have the same priced pair of jeans, and the jeans look the same, right? Or maybe you don't know what the jeans look like. You just have to buy from whatever it is, right? Maybe you don't. Maybe the jeans could look, completely different. But you just want a good pair of jeans. Who are you going to trust more? Well, you're going to trust the person who's seen 100 pair of jeans because they have better taste. And you're probably not even register. You probably didn't register that at the beginning, but like that's why you're doing it. If you knew that, you would pick the person who had seen 100 pair of jeans because they have better taste. They know better than the other person what is great from what is okay, right? So that's taste. And taste is where taste pours into like everything. Taste pours into making good content. Taste pours into making good clothing. Taste pours into making good a great website and landing page. Taste pours into speaking with clarity. Taste pours into your like how you frame something, the music that you use in a video, or the font that you use in a text, or you know what I mean, a million different things. Taste is just like taste is so like fucking universal. Taste goes into cars and taste goes into music, and you know what I mean. You've heard the phrase good taste or bad taste. That's what it means. Now that you guys should understand that fully now, and some of you guys probably already knew, obviously. But for those who didn't, taste is really fucking important, and I would encourage you guys to all become first an individual. First, very individualistic. First, very honest with yourself about what you do and do not like and do not enjoy and have an affinity for. And then once you discover that, develop a good taste for those things. And if you can do that, then you can serve people who genuinely fuck with the stuff that you like better than other people can, because not only are you aware of those things, but you know the difference between what of those things is good versus what of those things is great. And if you are only focusing on what is great for those group of people, you are going to win. That's it. That's fucking it. That is how you build a clothing brand, okay? And we'll get into all the semantics and shit tomorrow, okay? But as a whole, what you guys just heard me say right there, that's how you build a brand. And if you take nothing else from the rest of this 3-day workshop, please take that, because that's the fucking sauce. That's what everybody needs to hear from the gurus and shit. That's what everybody needs to hear from the courses. That's what everybody needs to hear from the YouTube videos. They just need to hear that, Because if you can hear that, bro, the Shopify stuff, you can figure that shit out. You can chat GPT, you can YouTube it. I'll teach you guys tomorrow through the thingy. But like this stuff that I just said right there, those are the two most important steps, most important things that you will ever do when it comes to making clothes. Yes, making a great product is important, but understanding what a great product even is the prerequisite to making a great product. Okay? So doesn't matter how long you've been doing e-commerce or doing any of this shit, all right? Knowing good versus what's not good will not only result in you making a great product that impacts your people's lives in a way that you want, in the way that you would be impacted, but it also just feels good. It feels good. Making money feels good, but making something dope that makes your life better, that you know is good and good for other people like you, feels even better. So, and I know because I've made money and I've made great products. And I've made products that made my life better and other people's lives better. And one feels better than the other. And it's not the money. So anyways, back to our presentation. Again, also taste, one thing other brands can't copy because it's yours. So let's go to Tame Psychotic. Let's talk about Tame Psychotic and kind of how I've done all of this shit with Tame Psychotic. So the 3 words I told you guys: blemished, badass, vintage. The it factor is my brand is made for masculine folks who like vintage art, right? I create masculine looks, right? Hard looks that make you look and feel like a man, right? That also show their appreciation for vintage art, whether it's music, movies, any form of media, stories, figures, whether they are inspirational figures, artistic figures, political figures, like musical figures, whatever it is, right? That's the whole point, okay? And the person is me, who's just a guy that loves art and wants to be a man, wants to be a badass, okay? That is who Tame Psychotic is for. And that is what is communicated through everything that comes out of the brand, whether it's a word that I speak or an influencer that we have working with us, or a product that we make, or a video that we make, or a catalog that we make, or a pop-up that we do, and how we decorate the pop-up. Everything is derived to appeal to the person, the guy who loves art and wants to be a badass, okay? So in regards to like DNA, you know, like some words or descriptors would be like masculine, anti-authoritarian, creatively inclined, individualistic, right? 90s grunge, military workwear, rough art, the enemy, creative captivity, the idea that being a man means being a robot, right? The idea that, men used to go to war and, can't make art and art's for girls and yada, yada, yada. Art is not for fucking girls, okay? Not to be like sexist at all here, but there are so many great men who have created art, right? There's so many, like, bro, dude, like, I could literally, like, talk all day about this, and I'm not going to. My brand reflects this because this is what I'm passionate about. There's so many men that I've met that are holed into this wall because society tells them that if you're a man, you work and you're a protector and provider. You're not an artist. Like, that's the dumbest, biggest pile of shit I've ever fucking heard. Go tell that to Van Gogh. Go tell that to literally anybody who's made art. Go tell that to Elvis Presley. Go tell that to Michael Jackson. Go tell that to fucking... Dude, I'm not even going to go into that rabbit hole, but yeah, that's the enemy. That's who we stand against. That's who we're flipping off, right? From the other side of the line. And you need that line, right? Because that's where we stand. You can stand with us or you can stand against us, right? You can be the little bitch boy that's not a man, that's, whatever, like thinks that like, this or that and blah, 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 and has your own beliefs that don't align with who we believe we are, right? Or you can be like us. You got to be one or the other, okay? And if you're with us, then we're making cool shit for you. And we're making it like nobody else is making it for you. That specific type of person, okay? All these adjectives narrows down that person. Again, we're going this triangle. We're going from the top of the triangle. We're moving down the triangle. We're moving down the triangle because that's where the window of opportunity is, okay? So now we're going to talk about the 18-question framework. The 18-question framework is what I was talking about earlier, which is essentially kind of like a more personal version of what we talked about earlier on, which is asking yourself those questions. This is basically a software and a tool that is meant to be, it's a self-discovery mechanism. It's to help you uncover kind of like the secrets about yourself that aren't secrets, you know what I mean? But you don't think about them as much, and to be able to actually turn those things into information and kind of like a blueprint that will serve as like the foundation. This is free. I'm not charging anything for this. Yes, it costs me money to run. But you know, it's valuable and it's helped a lot of people. So I'm going to put this in your inbox as soon as we finish. It should be in your email. Probably put it in the WhatsApp groups too, just so everybody gets access to it. This thing is fucking sick. I'm very proud of this. I've also got another software that we built that's fucking insane that I cannot wait to show you guys. It's more for like the actual like doing part of the brand. Like, you know, today was more understanding what the brand is and what the brand needs to be. And then the other software is like to help you, bro, like the amount of shit that fucking we have in there, that it's like my dream product 3 years ago. Like what I wish existed that I didn't even know was possible, I made. And it's for you guys. So I'm very excited to talk about that and show you guys. But yeah, tomorrow, day 2, we're going to be actually building all this stuff and like doing more worrying about like the nitpicky steps, right? The beginning steps, you know, of turning your identity, which is what we talked about today, and your ideas and who you are and where you stand, and turning it into like a physical product that's being sold and distributed to customers. We're going to talk about how to build trust in the window that almost every brand forgets, and you know the what kills most brands. You're going to talk about how to use your identity that you're building with today's class and resource and carry out the marketing to make your brand stand out and really get your brand out there. And then we're going to build the kind of word of mouth sales effect that honestly does the marketing for you. And that is probably like one of the most important lessons for anybody that does e-commerce to understand. It goes into customer experience a lot, how to understand that, get that data, and then turn that data into an improved experience for the customer. So it's going to be tomorrow. We're going to be coming back here. You guys should see it. It'll be live. There'll be no replay. Again, I put these on for people who are willing to show up for themselves. I don't do all that, you know, replay for everybody. You know, I'm taking my time. This is special for me. Like getting to just talk to you guys in this format is special to me. So I want to keep it special, which is why we don't record them, you know what I mean? And post them. Cause yeah, like whatever, like maybe we could help more people, but I want this to be something that you guys are like, I'm fucking there. I'm with the energy. I'm feeling it. You know what I mean? This isn't a recording on my end. So it's not meant to be that way. It's not meant to be delivered as a recording. You know what I mean? If I wanted to, I could say some heinous shit right now and there's nothing I could do about it. It would be out there and it would be canceled or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes it real. And that's kind of like what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I like. That's how I teach, you know what I mean? My students, you know, and live and Zoom and shit. So, tomorrow is probably the most important day, because that's where execution happens. Like today, it's so hard. Like tomorrow, today, they're both equally as important, but tomorrow is where like you're hustling. Tomorrow is like where we're actually like, okay, fuck, we need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. So be ready to like, it's not a fucking like lecture you can just sit through. Like this next one is one where you're going to be writing and you're going to be kind of like really, really hustling while we're going. So be prepared for that. Tomorrow we're fucking guns blazing and, we're moving through that shit fast. So be sharp, show up sharp, drink your caffeine, get your coffee, get your headphones in, whatever you need to do. You know, if you need to go to a coffee shop, put your headphones in, get a coffee, whatever. If you need to be at home by yourself, door closed, do not disturb, do what you need to do. A lot of value tomorrow. A lot of actionable steps tomorrow that are going to really move the needle. It's the kind of stuff that you would kind of just like take note of and be like, oh yeah, I need to do this. And then you'd never do it because it's just like all these little tiny things that like you just don't want to do. You know what I mean? And you're just like, oh, I'll do it at some point. Some point I'll have the motivation to do it. No, tomorrow we're doing it. So yeah, very, very important shit. Some action items before tomorrow. Number 1, do the 18 question framework. It'll be in your inbox as soon as this is over with. I want you to throw your 3 words into a list. And I want you to start making more words. I want you to start just thinking, right? And just thinking, what other words fit into this list? And make a big fat fucking list, right? I like people to make big lists of reference and big reference banks, because reference banks are essentially, our blueprint, right? I want you to start building a bank of visual references, which is just going to be images, whether you find these on Google, Pinterest, Instagram, I don't give a fuck. Just find them, start collecting them, and just use them as like a blueprint, like a mood board kind of for what you want to create based on what we've talked about, based on what the 18 question framework reveals, and based on kind of like what you're thinking about. So, and then I want you to find 3 character references. Write them down, you know what I mean? Just get them on paper so that you can, kind of just like talk about it or whatever, and feel like it's just top of mind, you know what I mean? It's a part of your DNA. So, let's fucking rip some questions. I'll answer a few questions and then, I'll hop off. Whew. Let's see. I haven't even looked at the fucking, I haven't even looked at the chat in a minute. Let's see. You would make a perfect teacher or mentor. Bro, that's what I do. That's half my job. Half my job is doing the thing, and the other half of my job is learning the lessons and teaching other people the lessons. So, you said picture the person that you are or aspire to be, but doesn't aspire might differ from what you were as a kid. Like you might not like how you was and you want improve which person to picture. Okay, so what I mean by this is your interests more than likely are like you're always gonna have like an appreciation or affinity for something that you enjoyed as a kid. It's kind of like not really like up to you. Like it's just a part of your brain as how you grew up. You know what I mean? You may not like, for example, I used to not like the country accent, the southern accent. I was born in Florida, raised in Georgia. I used to not like that. And so I made very conscious decision to get rid of it. And then over time, it was such a labor for me to like not use it ever that I just kind of just dropped it, and it just came natural to me. You know what I mean? And now it's kind of like come back a little bit, and I got a little bit of twang come out here and there, because that's just where I'm from. And that's kind of how I grew up. And that was just kind of how my brain was soldered together. And, you may not like who you were as a kid. I don't like who I was as a kid. I was like the scary kid. I was the angry kid. I was the kid who didn't talk, but might have had a gun in his backpack. You know what I mean? Like I looked angry. Like I looked like not the guy you'd want to fuck with. Like I wasn't big. I wasn't muscular. But I just looked like, I don't know. I looked angry, and I was angry. And I looked angry because I was angry, and I was not like a pleasant person to be around. And I don't, that part of me is not what I'm referencing. You know what I mean? The part of me that I'm referencing is my interests, field of interest, right? It's not, how you were, how you acted, right? It's my field of interest, what I liked. You know what I'm saying? Like what I liked, what my lifestyle was. And honestly, like, your lifestyle should reflect a lot of your taste, because, my lifestyle back then was I played soccer, I worked outdoors, like doing like a lot of blue collar work. And I, I rode my bike and shit a lot. So like my style was reflective of that. And, today, like I'm doing a lot of the same things, building motorcycles, or I'm traveling, or I'm riding bikes, or I'm, I'm not playing soccer anymore. But, that's one of those things you can leave behind, because it was just like, as a child, you doing a sport, you leave it behind or you pick it back up. It doesn't matter. But, you find new interests, but some interests, they're always the same. They always stay the same. The music that I like now is basically influenced by the music that I liked then. Right. My mom was like big into like 80s, 90s, 80s, like rock and roll, like glam rock type of shit. Right. And then my dad was really into like the 90s kind of like grunge alt rock scene. And like all the music I like is maybe not the same exact songs, but it's the same kind of genres and like types of art. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit of clarity. That's a totally reasonable question, by the way. When it comes to building your brand and stuff, would you ever consider teaching us the legality side of this business, like LLCs and et cetera? I've taught that obviously before, but to be honest, like you don't need to worry too much about the legality end of things, unless you're just ripping off big giant brands. You're not really ever going to get sued for anything, and as long as you're making an effort to change something a little bit, like you're not like maybe somebody will be like, oh, like I made that and you're copying me, but nobody's ever going to sue you because most clothing brand owners, they don't know anything legally anyways, and from their end, and the big companies don't give a shit about the little companies because they just think like, oh, we're the big fish. Like unless they're making a big fat bag off of that, like people were in 2020, where people were doing like the Air Force One ripoffs and shit, and a bunch of brands came up. Those guys got sued, but like, I mean, I don't know a single person that's gotten into any legal trouble getting sued or anything. I just don't worry about it. Make your LLC, make sure your expenses are deductible from your taxes, you're spending money on a business card, if you are spending a lot of money, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't really go into fucking patents and trademarks and all that bullshit because, again, like, you're not the first one to think of an idea. Okay, I'm sure there was other people who thought of the words tamed and psychotic before me for something. Maybe it wasn't for clothing. Maybe it wasn't in the same way that I'm doing it, but I'm sure they thought of it for something. You know what I mean? So it's not the end of the world. That's just like, in my opinion, like there's just like, bro, you got too much other stuff that's way more important and way more pressing to focus on than legal shit. Let's see. So when it comes to building and brand and stuff, would you ever oh wait, that's literally the question I just read. Is this blueprint possible for my current brand that is more of a service-based product, like adding an apparel line to the brand? Dude, yeah, like the stuff that I'm teaching, like yes, I'm in terms of like the semantics of like, you know, doing your Shopify or making a product or communicating with a manufacturer or creating a tech pack. Like I specialize in clothing, but this philosophy that we talked about today can be applied to any business ever. Any business, whether it's a service-based business or a product-based business. This is just like identity philosophy. Every brand needs an identity. Every brand has an identity. You know, it should have an identity. Every successful, like hyper successful brand has some form of identity, and the founder could tell you kind of like roughly if asked the right questions, even if it wasn't exactly they took this course or whatever and watched this class and could answer the questions exactly to these, they would have something, they would come up with something that's like, okay, yeah, this is an absolute truth that does match with what you're saying, and this is the identity of the brand as a result, right? So, yes, the answer is yes. How to come up with a good name for my brand. So there's honestly a lot of little techniques that I've had people use. It's a great question. A brand name can either be direct. It could be something that's a direct descriptor, like something clothing or something clothes or something apparel or whatever. I'm not a huge fan of those. It is kind of like there's nothing wrong with them. But I like more editorial names that are just kind of like, I like to reference like names. Think about how like people name songs, right? So like people name songs things that are just one word, right? There's not a lot of context to it. It's kind of like left to be discovered. It's kind of left to be understood, and you're kind of figuring out, okay, it leaves you with a question rather than an answer, you know? And for me, like whenever I named my brand, if I were to name my brand today, I probably wouldn't name it Tamed Psychotic. I still think it's a sick ass name. It's just, I like really editorial shit that's just like super like hard to like understand, and you have to really dig deep to figure it out, or like be there for a long time to finally understand, or like understand some deep lore, you know. But if I were optimizing for people to immediately understand something and then and join something, then, you know, I like 2 words or 1 word that is just kind of like a descriptor of either a group of people or a singular person that is like that person that everybody wants to be, whether it's like this metaphysical entity that is just like, you know, we all want to be like this and that's what we're calling this person, or like we're all like this and that's what we're branding ourselves as, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, anyways, but let's see. How much capital does it take to launch a brand? That's a very nuanced question, but in general, like you're going to incur expenses like sample costs, you know, a couple $100 here and there. You're going to incur costs like Shopify, you know what I mean? Like the $40 a month or whatever it is to use the software. You're going to have obviously product cost unless you do a pre-order. If you do a pre-order, there'll be no, you know, premeditated product cost before you have to act, before you can even make money. You know, you don't have to pay for marketing. You can use your iPhone, you can use your homies, but if you wanted to pay for marketing, you would need to take that into consideration. If you wanted to get an LLC right off the bat, you'd have to take that into consideration. It's different for different states, the cost of making an LLC. But overall, it's just kind of like, what do you want to spend money on? You know what I mean? You don't need, I could give you a fucking laundry list of all the things that over the years you're going to have to spend money on. But like any logical person that actually has built a brand is going to not be like scaring you with a giant list of the things that you'll need to pay for in the next 10 years. They're going to give you like, okay, well, here's what you need to pay for to get started. And with everything that I just listed, like that's about it. You know what I mean? Maybe somebody else will have suggestions of like, oh, you got to pay for this and you got to pay for this. Well, like maybe you have to. I don't have to though. You know what I mean? If I were starting, I would choose not to. And like, I don't have to pay for that yet, so I'm not going to pay for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just, I remember I made a video about the cost of starting a brand, and then a brand owner commented on it with like this fat ass list of everything. And I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, why would somebody need to hire an accountant to manage the fucking 6 shirts that they sold on their website last month? Like, no. Anyways, how niche is too niche? To be honest, there is really no such thing. As long as it looks like well curated, then somebody's gonna appreciate it. I feel like nobody is so niche that like, and so much of an individual that like so individualistic that there's nobody like them. Like there's gonna be people like you. There's like people like me. There's people like everybody. You know what I mean? So I don't think there is such a thing as like too niched, in my opinion. Like as long as it all kind of goes well together in a curated aesthetic way, like you should be chilling. How much should a sample typically cost? Another nuanced question. Some samples are going to require a lot more work on the supplier's end to assemble, and those are going to cost more. Some are going to cost less. Relationships are also going to impact the cost of a sample. If I've ordered, for example, if I've ordered $1 million of product from this supplier, they may not even charge me at all for a sample. If I have never purchased from this other supplier, they don't know who I am. They don't know that I'm intending on purchasing a big bulk order. They may charge me, you know, $100 for a hoodie sample, or $200 for a hoodie sample, or $200 for a jean sample, or $150 for this sample. You know what I mean? It just depends. But on average, like I would say most of you guys with no experience can expect like $50 to $60 for a t-shirt from a good, and these are good manufacturers, like good prices from suppliers that actually do well, from like my like Urban Unity manufacturer list that we've like integrated into our softwares for recommendation and stuff. Like $50, $60 for a shirt, like 100-ish, 80 to 100 for like a hoodie, probably like 1 to 200 for like a decent, like good pair of jeans, depending on the fabric and construction details. And I hope, you know, maybe like 40 to 50 for like a hat or something. Jewelry is kind of like different because, you know, if you need custom molds for stuff, there's going to be more cost incurred for the actual like creation of the mold versus if you're using stock supplies that they have, just like assembling different stock supplies together, it's going to be way cheaper because they don't have to create the mold and pay for that. It just depends. There's so much nuance to it. Let's see. What's the biggest lesson you've learned on your journey while building your clothing brand? The biggest lesson I've learned is that the customer experience comes before everything else. If the customer experience is not positive, then you won't last. It doesn't matter how good of a designer you are, how good your taste is. If you cannot curate a good customer experience from pre-purchase to from pre-purchase to post-purchase pre-delivery to post-delivery product use to social experience, if you can't create a customer experience that is positive in all 4 phases, all 4 buckets, then your brand will die inevitably. Again, it doesn't matter how good your taste is. If your customer experience is not up to par, you're cooked. So that's probably the biggest lesson, like most important lesson I've ever learned. Do I need to learn how to sew or have some fashion design skills to start my clothing brand? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's like, it's cool as fuck to like know how to sew and shit. And I know people that know how to sew, and they definitely have like a certain aura about them that's like, damn, like they made that with their bare hands. It's fucking sick. But like, end of the day, like you don't need to. That's what suppliers are for. That's what hiring a manufacturer is for. That's what 99.9% of successful brands are doing. 99.9% of successful founders don't know how to sew. It's a very small percentage of successful founders that do know how to sew, and most of those guys are going for like, you know, a more avant-garde runway kind of look rather than like a community-based kind of, you know, more like kind of like wearable look. Let's see. What website's good for designing your products? Designing products is really, there's no like website that you go to like design products. There's softwares that you can use to create tech packs. There's softwares that you can use to create realistic mock-ups, and there's softwares there's websites that you can use to collect inspiration. But if you wanted me to put this in the very most fucking simple way, like you would collect inspiration on a site like Cosmos or Pinterest, or you would go and find physical references from like stores where you could go, or showrooms where you could go and look at clothing or whatever. And then you would use a software like Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop or Procreate to create essentially like a mock-up and an illustration for the manufacturer or supplier who's going to actually like make the physical garment. And, you know, I would hire that out. I wouldn't do that myself because it's just too much to learn. I'm not going to spend all my time learning Photoshop and Illustrator. I'm not a computer guy. You know what I mean? So I'm going to hire that out because it's cheap to hire out. And then they're going to create the illustration, the design or whatever based on what I tell them to do. So I don't make my own designs, but I do source my own reference points and put together my own briefs and source my own like graphic references. So like the garment is just my vision in my head, and I tell the designers what to like illustrate. You know what I mean? So, and I like fine tune it and make them do a million revisions, and they hate it, but it is what it is. That's why we make good shit. Let's see. How long ideally would it take between preparing and planning your brand and sending to your supplier? I mean, dude, it's like if you're guided, you could do all this shit within a week. You know what I mean? It's the issue is that most people don't know what to do. They don't know what tasks are important. Some people are worried about legal stuff. You know what I mean? And they're spending hours during their week worrying about patents and trademarks and all this, you know, legal shit, when it's like, you know, that's not at all what you should be worried about. So if you're working on all the right things, that's why I do these classes and these workshops, so that you guys know the right things to work on. Because if you do that, then you can speed run the fucking learning process and just get straight to building shit. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Oh, okay. I think that's the last question. I'm fucking fading. I'm tired. I got to finish up the slides for day 2. And yeah, day 1 was a fucking blast. We went through some dope shit. For those of you who are still here 2.5 hours later, fucking congrats. That's fucking sick. Tomorrow we work. Tomorrow we put in that work, and I'm excited. I'm excited. It's going to be great. And I think that I can't wait to see you all there. I'm super pleased with how today went. You guys are all fucking active as shit in these comments, and I'm really loving it. I want to keep seeing it. So good stuff. And I will see you guys tomorrow.